everybody. Welcome to the Macabre Podcast universe. It's the podcast that exists to prove what, Jordan?
Proves people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals, and I'm Jordan.
And I'm Micah. And now we interrupted our Three Colors trilogy to talk about Scream.
Okay, yeah.
Then we interrupted it again to talk about Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
And we're back in the Keanu series.
And now we interrupted again back to the Keanu-thon. And we are talking about John Wick Chapter 4. Now, I think we got to set the table. It's been a few years. We need to go. You and I love John Wick. Mm-hmm. We love John Wick 2. Mm-hmm. And we felt better about John Wick 3, I think, when we covered it.
Still had some world-building issues. And by world-building, too much world-building for my taste.
Yes.
I still held that belief. But the movie was not as disappointing as my initial reaction because I definitely went into it with some specific expectations that weren't fair for the movie.
Yeah, I think we both unfairly were like, oh, this is the last movie. Yeah. And they never made that announcement.
No.
And so when the movie didn't end, like the series, I'm talking about John Wick Chapter 3, I think we were both like, well, that's dumb.
Yeah.
And then upon further reflection, it's like,
they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, that's not a fair criticism. But yeah, my main thing I think that I stumbled upon with that movie was that his motivations in 1 and 2 make sense to me, and I'm on his side.
Yeah.
But in Chapter 3, we have the adjudicator character, and that character is just judging from the high table.
And it's because he killed that guy at the end of this 2.
Yeah.
That's why they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the adjudicator never was really shown to do anything bad. They were just out there at the very end, they start attacking the Bowery King because he's been outside of the rules for so long.
But wasn't that also because he was protecting John Wick? Like, can't you also argue that? So.
Yeah. And so basically I had a little fix for that movie, which I thought the adjudicator first scene of the movie should have done something totally immoral. So the whole movie, we were like, oh, I hope that John gets the adjudicator.
Yeah.
But
we kind of get that in this movie.
And this movie fixes that for me and retroactively fixes Chapter 3 for me because of how they paint the high table and they paint it as something that has like a history of taking these assassins, chewing them up and spitting them out, and using their family against them and stuff like that. So this movie fixes 3. So now I like 3 a lot. And I mean, before we're going to keep it spoiler free for the first part so that you can hear our kind of review on it. This movie slaps, baby. It is when we heard, okay, it's 2 hours and 50 minutes. I thought to myself, well, the third movie was not as long as that, and I was pretty exhausted by the end. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, like, I don't know, man. I don't know how long an action movie can sustain itself with this kind of level of action. And as we're sitting there in the theater, I was like, nah. 3 hours is fine.
I got nervous because, and this isn't a spoiler thing, but the last part of the movie with what happened, I definitely got a sense of like, are you telling me there's like another 40 minutes? Because this has not felt like 2 hours and 50. And I was getting I was getting a little nervous that it's like, what possibly do we have to sit through?
Oh yeah, just didn't realize how long we'd been there.
It's just because like we've all been in movies where they're long or the story, it's just like the story goes along and like you get your denouement and your closure and you feel that release of the story ending and then you still have like 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, why didn't you just end it back there?
Yeah.
You didn't have to wrap all these things up. So I was just getting nervous about that. Like, I don't know what they could have tacked on at the end.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe they could because it really had not felt like 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah.
It felt much faster. But it still felt long, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny. I feel like every little bit on Twitter, something will go viral where someone says, movies are getting so much longer these days,
Uh-huh.
and I'm tired of long movies. And to which, after starting to study movies from the early 1900s and watching them, I've realized this is not a new thing. I've watched movies from the 1900s that are 3 hours and 25 minutes that have no sound. So
it's an ebb and flow.
It's an ebb and flow. It changes all the time. But the thing is, recently there's been a lot of longer movies, like this one. There's a movie
Marvel
called Avatar 2 that is over 3 hours. And I think when you're doing the level of world building that these movies are doing, and you have a good enough story, it really doesn't matter how long it is.
Yeah.
And so for this movie to be this long, I was worried because of the world building elements in 3 that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
That it was just going to be boring.
Yeah.
But it's like it totally works. And now when I'm starting to come around to like, you know what? I think maybe we need these movies to breathe more sometimes, because I heard that Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is allegedly around 3 hours.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, make it 4 if you have to.
He's Christopher Nolan, though. People shouldn't be complaining about that, and it's a historical movie.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can get away with it being a little bit longer. I'll say my piece about this movie, though.
Yeah.
I thought it slapped too. It was great.
Yeah.
The world building stuff, still, I needed like 20% less. Several parts throughout this movie when they're talking about stuff.
Yeah.
I knew, I was following the movie and I knew it was happening, but at the same time, I had no idea what was happening. I couldn't understand a word they were saying because it felt like so much of what they were saying were just empty metaphors.
Yeah.
That sounded good, but I actually don't really know what they mean.
Right.
Which, at the end of the day, I don't really care because it's a John Wick movie and I just want to see some action.
Uh-huh.
So it didn't, but for the beginning of the movie, this it takes a little bit before we get to an action part.
Yeah.
Which made me pretty nervous at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because they had a lot of table setting, and it was like, this is the stuff that I'm not into. Like, this is the stuff from 3 that I'm still not on board with because it's so heavy world building, and it doesn't compute with me in this world.
Right.
So I had a lot of issues. Well, I don't know. A lot might be hyperbole, but
wow, great
I had
word.
issues.
Well, what I found is like the first it was the metaphor I think of is like they set up all the dominoes.
Yeah, that's true.
And so for like a half hour they're setting up dominoes and there's a little bit of action and you're like, okay. And then when they flick that first domino, it is literally 2 hours and 10 minutes of like nonstop and like some of the most breathtaking action I've ever seen.
I know.
I mean, you heard me in the movie. I was laughing like it was a comedy movie.
You were laughing at the first action scene, the first second of it. You were laughing immediately.
Like it was like pure joy.
Yeah.
Like the act because.
Oh, also? Sorry.
Yeah.
Well
the action in John Wick 3 was technically just like insane.
Yeah.
I loved it.
But it's like it doesn't even hold a candle up to this one for me.
This movie actually felt kind of going back to Avatar. It felt like the Avatar to Avatar 2 thing, where it was like, oh, James Cameron, or in this case, Chad Stahelski, like warmed up.
Yeah.
And then they made like a masterpiece after that. Like they just went like balls to the walls and only focused on the things that we loved and left out the things that we don't and just
made it
went for
visually stunning.
The nunchucks, my friends, nunchuck fighting in this movie in a way that I was just legit cackling in the theater.
Kids can watch this movie and maybe finally understand how to use nunchucks for fun. Because when you were a kid and you wanted to play with nunchucks because it looked so cool, you have no idea what you're doing and you always hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Kids are still going to hurt themselves, but you might understand it a little bit better from this movie.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Also,
yeah,
the theater, people were so jazzed to see this movie. And it was great.
They were.
There was clapping at one point. Always love getting a clap. And it wasn't the movie ended, we're going to clap. It was something happened in the movie and people clapped. Because they were like rejoicing. And
It's true. It's
a
true.
lot of laughs for people.
Yeah.
And it was great. Even aside from the person that vaped during the movie.
Yeah, don't vape. Come on.
You could you could sit through a movie without vaping.
Yeah. Just having a cloud of smoke cloud your view of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, come on,
Also,
guys.
there might be pregnant people in the theater. Let's not vape.
But like, yeah, the movie, and what was interesting about the audience is it was like, so we were sitting by two teenagers.
And like 14-year-old teenagers who clearly their parents were sitting a row down. And
oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Like before the movie started, one of them ran over in our aisle and like grabbed something over the edge.
That's right.
And grabbed
That's
candy. Right. They were pretty annoying at the beginning, but I think they got into the movie. I mean,
that's the thing.
They got up like 3 times and probably went and like hung out in the bathroom because it kind of was clear it wasn't their kind of movie, and they were texting the whole time. Low screen brightness though, so
yeah,
I didn't really see it.
Take it as you can get it, you know.
But I think by like halfway through the movie, they were silent and watching it.
And that's what I felt like. I didn't feel like the theater was loud at all.
No.
But it felt like as the movie progressed, because, you know, again, we said that they're like setting up the dominoes at the first 30 minutes. Like there's a little bit of stuff going on. And then as the movie goes, of course, a lot of people are going to the bathroom because it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
But like, so that's happening. But then the last like hour of the movie, whenever there was silence, which was very rare, it was like pin drop silent in the theater. Like everyone is glued.
Yeah.
And then what was interesting is like the first 2 hours, people aren't reacting to the screen like in a open way, really.
Yeah.
But then the last hour, people are like laughing, they're hooting and hollering, they're like clapping and stuff. And so it's like, oh, the movie, I mean, everyone was stoked to see this anyway.
Yeah, you could tell.
But for a 3-hour movie, for you to get the approval in the last hour, it's like, oh, you pulled it off.
I kind of feel like I might want to see this movie again too.
Yeah, we can go tonight. I want to see it again tonight. Okay. I want to check the tickets to see, because our friend is seeing it tonight and invited us, and we were like, well, because of podcasting, like we kind of have to get this done at a certain time frame, so we might not want to see a 3-hour movie literally the next 24 hours showing away, but we're probably going to see it tonight.
Wow. The action was just so incredible.
The action, and what was nuts about, and I will wait until...
Wait, let me just say one thing.
This movie
when
rules.
A movie is so heavy and complicated, like Inception, that demands watching it more than once, and it's enjoyable. It's not doing homework. At least for me, it wasn't. I enjoyed seeing it several times.
And that's the kind of homework you like.
But this was like, I feel like I need to see it again to catch all the action I missed.
Well, so there's... I'm not going to spoil the scenes yet until after our spoiler alert. But the movie started, and there's a whole sequence in Japan. And I was like, holy cow, this is some of the best action I've ever seen in my life, particularly in American cinema. And so I'm like, that's amazing. And then they go to a different location, and I'm like, okay, I think they might have topped the Japanese action scene. And I'm like, okay, if the action only climaxes to this point, this is amazing, like incredible, and the movie was worth seeing. And then they do this thing, and I could not believe what I was watching. And I was like, okay, this is the highlight. And then they go to another location directly after that, and I was like, I cannot believe it. They topped it again. And then they go to another location, and I was like, maybe this one doesn't top the previous two, but it's better than maybe any John Wick sequence. And then the final showdown. And
they've continued with which was what they have done so well in the other movies, is like each fight scene is color coded.
Oh my gosh.
So it feels, not only is the action different from sequence to sequence, but it just feels even more fresh throughout.
Here's the thing, folks. I couldn't find an exact number, but I found in articles that the budget was 100 million / just over 100 million.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, folks. This movie looks beautiful. It is so beautifully shot, and the action is so intense and so crazy. I cannot believe this was at least $150 million.
Yeah.
And folks, we love superhero movies, but there is no discernible reason. A movie that we really liked, Shazam 2, there's no reason that movie, which was a higher budget than this movie, still a lower budget, like 150, I think.
For a superhero movie, low.
Yeah. There's no reason that movie should look that bad, and this movie should look this good.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you have a true... I mean, I really like David F. Sandberg. I think he's got a lot of career in him. But Chad Stahelski freaking knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And when you take someone who cut his teeth on doing actual martial arts, upgrade him to director, holy cow. And what's also crazy is because Chad Stahelski and David Leitch both directed the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then David Leitch went off and he started making his own movies. And they are progressively looking worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
Except he's starting to course correct with Bullet Train, I hope. Because that movie looked pretty good for most of it.
Yeah.
But it's really weird seeing these two divergent paths where, like, David Leitch is...
But David Leitch has gotten into franchises, like pre-existing franchises.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they've looked worse. I mean, it's near impossible to make a good Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
He made one of the worst ones, granted.
Yeah.
But he is like, he has tapped into some territory that's pre-established, which, I don't know, maybe there's something about it that's just harder when Chad Stahelski has continued on his specific vision with this.
And Chad, it's just interesting because I think David Leitch is definitely talented, but it's almost like Chad's taking the hard road and earning it, and David Leitch is like, yeah, I'll take a pre-existing franchise and like do my own thing. I like, this is my own opinion.
Yeah,
but
I still think David Leitch has provided some elevated stuff to those franchises. I mean, I even will say Hobbs and Shaw, because I remember the first part of that movie looked really good because he was doing all the color stuff, which is like the John Wick thing.
But he doesn't have a good grasp on storytelling, in my opinion. And he has like a like elementary understanding of special effects.
Yeah.
Because spoiler alert for people listening to our X-Men series, when we talk about Deadpool 2, some of the ugliest uses of special effects in like modern cinema. Yeah. And he directed that. But then he has moments in that movie where you're like, that's David Leitch. Yeah. You know, so I wish he could course correct, you know? But
well, like you said, Bullet Train was great.
Yeah. Well, that's what I hope is like, maybe that's the start of him kind of branching out and starting to do more original stuff again. Yeah. And working with actors. But maybe make another movie that's like Bullet Train, but leave out all the Deadpool stuff. Yeah. And don't work with Ryan Reynolds anymore, you know? But this movie, let's talk about Chapter 4. It is written by, it's directed by Chad Stahelski. Mm-hmm. It is written by Slay Hatton, who did Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Army of the Dead, and Army of Thieves.
What's Army of Thieves? They made another thing?
They made a sequel to Army of the Dead, like, within a year. What? And it's a prequel with the safecracker guy.
Oh, right. Did anyone watch that?
No.
Okay. I forgot about that.
And then it's also written by Michael Finch, who did November Man, Predators, and American Assassin. Now, someone who doesn't have a writing credit is Derek Kolstad.
Yeah, but he still, I saw, was a producer.
Yeah. And he got characters created by, of course.
Oh, I think that was actually the credit he had.
Yeah. So this is the first time he's not writing in the series.
What else has he done again?
Well, he's done the John Wick movies and
like
Nobody.
All of them. And Nobody. That's right. That's right. Who directed Nobody?
I am forgetting now.
I'll look it up.
But the cinematography is by Dan Louston, who did Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and Chapter 4. The music is by Tyler Bates and Joel J. Richard. And
my gosh, the music.
Yeah, they did all 4 of these.
Ilya Naishuller directed Nobody.
That's right.
Who did Hardcore?
Henry,
yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little interesting. It's like basically the same people who've been making 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. But then there is and you know, like I said, Shay did write 2 and 3. Or I'm sorry, he wrote 3 and 4.
This thing, I'm sorry, my brain's going all over the place.
Wait, one second. He wrote 3 and 4, but Michael Finch is new to the project, and then we're losing someone. So I think if I'd have seen that before we saw the movie, I'd be like, that's a little concerning.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the fresh take, even though Michael Finch, those movies I listed are not necessarily movies that I think are all that great, and Shay's movies are not all that great either, I don't think.
There's obviously a great collaborating element.
Yeah,
on this series.
I really think Chad just has a vision and he can like pull it all together.
And the music in this movie reminded me so much of Matrix, where it was like almost like heavy dubstep the whole time, and you're just like, yeah.
So freaking the teenagers we were sitting next to.
Yeah.
I saw that when we were in the club scene.
Yeah. They were into it.
She started fist pumping and
know.
dancing the way you and I jokingly do it at home, and I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Because so if you listen to our episode last week, I said I think I need to be okay with telling people to shut up in the theaters. I need to try it.
Yeah.
And they were talking a little bit. They were on your side, and I said, Jordan, you let me know. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Because I'm also like I can do this. They're younger, and we're right next to them.
You're a man. They're little girls.
And I got a beard. Like, it will be scary if I tell them to shut up, you know? So I'm like, I got the upper hand.
We sound like such wimps.
But then they got really into it. And it was like, okay, great.
Yeah, it was fine.
But I was ready. My stomach was turning, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be mean. Here we go. But then they weren't. And everyone on my side was silent. And I was like, thank you for the win, Lord.
Yeah, you deserved it. It was my time.
But yeah, did you say, was that what you were going to say? The
thing.
music? Yeah. Crazy.
It was nuts, especially the Arc de Triomphe and no. The Arc de Triomphe had a lot of soundtrack music, which I loved. That whole sequence. That's not my favorite because there's an obvious favorite. The other part that's the best, the obviously best part of the movie, the music in that was like, it was so hard not to.
You're talking about the aerial one, right?
Yeah. It was so hard not to like. I mean, I was tapping my foot the whole time, and that was me restraining myself because it was so crazy. Also, with what was happening, I'm sure everyone in the theater wanted to like start like screaming from excitement while watching it.
It is really fascinating this year in movies so far. I know we're only 3 months in, but like it does seem like we love superhero movies. We do. And I am not willing to just say like it's over, throw in the towel. But it is wild that 2 superhero movies have come out, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Shazam, and they've both flopped. And then you have like movies like Megan, Knock at the Cabin did decent. Even 80 for Brady did good.
So these non-franchise things. Well, this is a franchise.
But it is a franchise, but it's like its own thing.
Yeah.
Scream. Like it does seem like
they're rated R franchises, so it is a little bit different.
Right. And it kind of feels like people are like, you know what? We get it. And we are ready for like, you have to, like, I think the time of them saying, hey, here's a new superhero movie. He has a cape. You'll show up, right?
Yeah.
It's like since Black Adam and so on, it's like, no, it has to be good. Mm-hmm. You have to make it good or we're not going to show up. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
And I would hope that, you know, maybe movies that are in the pipeline for Marvel, a series that I want them to make, you know, forever. I would hope that if the scripts aren't good, maybe they scrap them and they start over.
Yeah.
You know, like the guy who wrote Ant-Man and the Wasp is writing the Avengers movies. Maybe you go, okay, we need to look at this again because people aren't just going to show up anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's weird. I think 2023 might be a year that we look back on as kind of like, okay, people are fully back at the theaters and they are, even Cocaine Bear did really well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like maybe people they don't need a cape to go to the theaters anymore. Mm-hmm. So we can make whatever we want as long as it's well made. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty exciting to be a film fan right now. Mm-hmm. And you have to go see John Wick 4.
Yeah.
You have to see this in theaters.
Yeah.
I implore you, folks. This is wild, wild stuff. But let's talk about how it was made. So this movie was announced via text to people who signed up for a service, and the text said, "You have served, you will be of service. John Wick Chapter 4 is coming May 21st, 2021."
Cool.
At one point, it was going to come out the same day as Matrix 4.
Whoa. Why? Why would they ever do that?
Yeah, I think that was, it was never going to happen. You know,
it was like a placeholder.
Yeah, it's kind of a placeholder. Okay. But that would have been fun to go see those movies back to back. But then this movie got delayed with the pandemic. So they wound up. I mean, that movie came out over a year ago.
Yeah.
So, Gilmore is really trying to get here. We put up a barricade. Oh, he figured it out? Oh my gosh.
That's a blue healer for you.
No, you're not getting over by the cords, my friend. We have to block him. Yeah, so at one point it's going to come out Matrix 4, and then at one point it was going to be filming back-to-back with John Wick Chapter 5.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to say too much, but as of now, I don't think there's an announcement on Chapter 5.
Okay.
But who knows what'll happen in the coming days.
Okay.
Rina Sawayama is the daughter of one of the Japanese
I'll look up his name.
Continental owner.
It is Shimazu is the Continental owner's name of Osaka.
Yeah. So she was selected because she is like Stahelski knew she could do choreography because he'd seen her music videos because she's a musician.
Yeah.
And I just think that's cool that he cast someone because they were a musician.
Do you want to know a little bit? Is that all you have on her?
That's all I have on her, yeah.
With over 400 million plays across streaming services and her critically acclaimed debut album, Sawayama, ranking on over 50 Album of the Year lists in 2020, Japanese-British pop star Rina Sawayama is set to make her feature film acting debut in the highly anticipated next entry in the John Wick franchise.
Wow.
Over 400 million plays.
Why don't you give me 100 of those, please? You can share them. So... I also found out that they are working on a ballerina movie within the John Wick universe starring Ana de Armas.
Okay.
So that would be fun. And Stahelski has said, so this is in regards to Chapter 5.
Okay.
He has said, in our minds, Keanu and I are done for the moment. We're going to give John Wick a rest. I'm sure the studio has a plan. If everyone loves it and it goes kooky, then we'll take a quiet minute. So, yeah, I don't think we're jumping right into John Wick.
Yeah.
Chapter 5. So there is a stairwell action sequence in this movie, and I'm not going to give away when it is and whatnot, but here's what's wild. Stahelski was inspired by the movie Amelie to make this stairwell sequence because he's a big fan of the French movie Amelie.
Okay. I don't remember what the stairs play into that movie, but I've only seen it once.
Well, he saw the church in the movie.
Yeah.
Because the third act of that movie starts at the church, apparently. Okay. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen it. And so they went location scouting to the Sacré-Cœur. And as they're walking up there, they're walking up these steps. And he's like, oh, we have to do an action sequence here.
Very cool.
So they do that. And then, let's see. Yeah. And he was also inspired by the movie High Noon on a story level, which we'll get into when we get there. And then as they were walking up the steps, scouting and stuff, like in his mind when they're shooting that, all he's thinking is, what would Buster Keaton do?
Oh, cool.
And then it took them 7 days to shoot that sequence.
I believe it.
Yeah. And I also confirmed, which was very cool, there's a scene in this movie that takes place in the Louvre. Mm-hmm. And the way it was filmed... And this is one of the great things about this franchise, but especially this movie. They really show off the locations.
Yeah.
In a way. Because, sometimes you watch a movie and it's like, we're in Paris, France. And you're like, yeah, you showed an establishing shot of the Eiffel Tower. It doesn't feel like you're in Paris.
Yeah.
Even like the new Scream movie, they shot most of that in Canada. And it doesn't really look like a New York movie.
Yeah.
It's not like When Harry Met Sally, where you're like, I'm in New York.
Yeah.
And this movie... There's that scene in the Louvre, and we were there a few months ago, and I was like, I think if you didn't actually shoot in the Louvre, you wouldn't film it this way. You'd do a lot more close shots. They're like big, wide shots where you can see the huge paintings in the hallways and stuff, and they have the French Revolution one.
Viva la Vida.
Yeah, I know.
Well, go ahead.
But having said that, it's like you wouldn't film it this way if it wasn't the real location. But I confirm they did film in the Louvre.
Jeez, how much money was that? And did they have to shoot in the middle of the night?
Well, guess what? They shot this movie during COVID.
Oh. So the Louvre got some money during COVID.
I would think that potentially they did.
Edward Norton borrowed the Mona Lisa on loan.
Yep.
And then they also got to make some money from this movie, from them shooting there.
Yeah. Although I think they filmed most of this movie last year, so it probably would have been open. But it was funny because I was thinking about it, and I'm like, why would they let a crew in here and all that stuff? And then I thought, there's literally like thousands of people that walk by those paintings every day. Like 60 crew members isn't going to be that crazy for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they just probably have to be like, you can't light it a certain way.
Yeah,
or
there's
whatever.
probably just a lot of hoops that they have to jump through.
Yeah.
Technically, as they're setting stuff up.
Yeah.
It also is just very symbolic for them to shoot it, have that as a location.
Very symbolic.
Yeah, because of the paintings.
Yes.
Because the paintings were about, like, it was going through the French Revolution.
Oh, yes. Yes, you're right. You're right.
And
You're
we're
right.
dealing with a story that's about basically a revolution.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I got.
Cool.
Hit me with them actors.
So, Keanu, you wanted to know his upcoming things?
I do. And I want to talk about Keanu Reeves. But actually, can we save him for after we spoiler alert? Can we talk about other people first?
Oh, okay. Wait. So the guy, I think that who we thought Sky Adkins was playing is not that guy. Georgiou plays the elder, the big guy that dies at the end. You were thinking that maybe Scott Adkins plays him?
No, Scott Adkins was the card player.
Oh, you did not say card player last night.
Well, I said Scott Adkins was playing, and you said the big guy, and I said yeah.
I meant like the big henchman.
Oh no! I thought you meant like literally
that
the big
Scott
guy who's in a
Adkins.
fat suit.
So we'll get to him.
Yeah.
So Georgiou plays the elder who is like Skarsgård,
the high table representative guy.
Good job.
Or the marquee representative.
Yeah. So he is in Game of Thrones, Sex Education, Carnival Row, Collateral,
like
Moonhaven.
Collateral, like Tom Cruise.
No.
Oh.
Something else. Clancy Brown plays Harbinger.
Something else. No notes.
He's in Shawshank, I can't. Wow, we're
Starship
recording.
Troopers?
We're recording in the morning. Starship Troopers, and so on and so forth.
You did Starship
I know,
Troopers.
I know.
Bum 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 bum.
This is the guy that, for some reason, I always think is the guy that plays the bully in Back to the Future. Clancy Brown. They don't look anything alike, but for a lot of me growing up, I would get them confused.
Wait, which guy is this in our movie?
That guy.
Oh, yeah. Wait, okay. So I'm sorry. Can you list off his first couple again?
Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Shawshank.
That's what the whole movie I was trying to figure out what I
He's
knew
in
him
so
from.
much stuff.
Yeah.
He is famously also Mr. Krabs.
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then let's see. Bill Skarsgård, who we have covered.
No?
Really?
In what?
I don't know.
What could he have been in?
Well, Deadpool 2.
Well, that's in the future, so we got to cover him now.
Oh, whoops. So you guys get to hear us talk about him twice and probably say the same exact thing or different things depending on our moods today upon recording. So he is Pennywise. He's also in Barbarian, a really great casting in that movie, as everyone knows.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of other stuff. He's in Eternals.
Yeah, he was, I guess maybe we have covered him in Eternals.
What's he in Eternals?
He's like one of the licorice-looking demon things that's attacking them.
Did I know that?
We definitely talked about it, yeah.
That's weird.
Bad movie.
Anyway, this is the first time that he looked like his dad to me.
I didn't see it, but I'll look tonight when we watch it.
Like certain expressions, it was like, wow, now I'm seeing the resemblance between you and Stellan and Alex.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be fun if they did a movie together?
Yes.
That would be cool. I like all of them so much.
Oh, yeah. They're all so wonderful. And in this movie, I hope he had as much fun as he looked wearing all of those outfits he wore.
He wore some excellent outfits.
Truly excellent. Most excellent.
What accent was he doing?
I think he was French.
French. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't place it, but I
wouldn't have known that until they were like in Paris a lot. And he was based in Paris.
Okay.
So that's my reasoning.
Okay. Yeah. it's kind of fascinating that like the three of them have such distinct like uses of their acting prowess.
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy because Skarsgård has this like aggressive, but also like apathetic way that he portrays characters. And then Bill has this like creepiness that he's able to weaponize.
Yeah.
And then Stellan also has the creepiness, but a lot of times he has like, I'm that dad.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that they both have like all three of them, when they're in something, your brain is automatically like has a definition of what they're going to do on screen in a, I think, a good way.
No one's mixing them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But what's great is, spoiler alert for Barbarian, is that's the genius of casting Bill Skarsgård, and a great example of why casting's so important, because you have an expectation when you see him, and then when that doesn't happen, it's confusing.
I especially think the casting is interesting in this movie because he's pretty young, and for him to be like this big top dude, it is like, I'm curious why they chose someone so young to play it. I mean, I think that a lot of his arrogance has something to do with his age.
Yeah, maybe like he got there in a way that he shouldn't have, unjustly.
Or it was like, it was handed to him, so he hasn't had to like fight for his position of power, when John Wick for 3 movies has actually been fighting for that position, or for anything at all, been fighting in general. And like, maybe that's why he is so careless about making Donnie Yen's character do what his character did.
Yeah, Donnie Yen, Jordan. I know we've talked about him because of Ip Man, but you probably are still going through actors. You were just it felt
it's just interesting that he's so like, they just casted not like an old, like the guy that Clancy Brown, who's like an older person.
Yeah,
it almost is like, why didn't you choose him to be the Marquis?
Yeah,
because he's old and wise and beyond his years. But I just like that they went with someone younger. And
here's what's interesting. In chapter 3, we talked about how he goes to like the elder of the high table, the like Saudi Arabian guy.
Yeah.
And when we saw him, it was like, this guy's young.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like
40s young.
Yeah, and we were like, that's kind of lame. It should be like an old wise guy. And then in this movie, he visits the same guy, but it's a new person. And he says something to the effect of like, I'm the new elder.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm not going to be as lenient as the last one. And I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. It almost makes me feel like the leader of the high table like changes often.
Yeah. Well, because of I feel like the jobs are so dangerous.
Well, and I just feel like, because in John Wick 3, that kind of did take me out of it, where I was like, this is the big guy, some guy who's like late 30s, early 40s. And then when we see another one that's late 30s, early 40s, it's like, oh, that kind of fixes that for me in John Wick Chapter 3.
Might be 50 and he just looks awesome.
But do you know what I'm saying story-wise?
I know what you're saying story-wise, yeah. Because also in the third movie with the Adjudicator, they're also pretty young.
It's a young man's game.
Yeah. So yeah, Donnie Yen is in this. Of course, we've covered him. They thought, okay, we got Donnie Yen. What is he so good at? Yes, he is so good at fighting.
Yeah.
But he's also so good at fighting blind because of Rogue One. Let's make him blind again. So, yeah.
And to me, he is the reason that this movie is not Chapter 3.
Yeah.
He elevates this movie, and not just Donnie Yen. I love Donnie Yen. I almost called him Johnny Yen. I love Donnie Yen. He is a worldwide treasure. We love the man. But his character and the way they wrote him and the things they do literally, again, fix the third movie for me and take this movie from like, okay, it's just an action movie where John Wick's just out to like fix his life, to, oh, there's some depth here. And this is this movie's not just what the last 2 movies were.
He's in his late 50s as well.
Yeah.
Isn't that bonkers?
Well, he like retired from martial arts movies, so I'm like, they had to bring him out of retirement for this.
Which is what they did in this movie, literally, with his character.
Yeah. And he just has the way he carries himself is so amazing.
Oh my gosh. If you're somehow still on the fence about this movie, which I doubt anyone is listening to this, just keep in mind, a big thing about Ip Man that was so cool, the Ip Man series, is every movie you're going to get machine gun punches. Well, I don't know if you did with the one he wasn't in, but that one's still one of the best ones.
Yeah, that wound up being our favorite, remember?
But machine gun punches, which is like I think a Wing Chun thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then not only
He did it in this movie.
he did it in this
I
movie,
wanted
but he
to like
also
clap.
does machine gun stabbing with a sword. I've never seen that in a movie before. And then that one scene when he does the machine gun punches, but then he like winds up his fist.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it's there's so many moments in this movie where that just make me go like, what else could you possibly want in a movie?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I
It's
know.
like this is absolutely perfect, you know?
Yeah. And then we have Hiroyuki Sanada, who plays Shimazu,
Yeah.
who is another big martial arts person.
And this is the guy that was in Bullet Train, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And this is I think for months now we've been saying he's in one of these John Wick movies, but we couldn't remember what. And then we finally determined, I think he's in the new one. So we finally
That's how long it'd been since we watched the John Wick movies.
Yeah. He was great.
Yeah.
But we have covered him before.
Yeah.
Shamir Anderson plays Tracker. I also really liked this character. I could see
Yeah.
someone making an argument for a movie that's so long, like just cut that guy's character.
No, he's kind of the
But-
key as well.
But I think he's great. He is our man with no name character.
Yeah.
He provides the Western element to this movie that I love so much, and he also represents like a young John Wick.
Right. And he when it started, like I think when you get to the end of the movie and a certain thing happens, it's like, no. This character has to be in here. Him
Yeah.
and Donnie Yen have to be in the movie, or it really is just another time John Wick's out on his own.
This guy's performance. Oh
Really
my gosh,
great.
He knew exactly what he was doing. He
Yeah.
was so wonderful.
It's like we got a career for this guy.
I know.
What's his name again? Shamir
Anderson.
Shamir Anderson. Okay.
So he
One
is
to
also
watch.
in Race, Bruiser, A Lot of Nothing. That's the movie, not
Oh,
his
okay.
career.
I'm like, whoa.
Invasion,
Mean.
Awake, Stowaway. A lot of Netflix stuff.
Okay.
Actually.
We got to get him out of Netflix.
Yeah. And then you covered Rina Sawayama.
Yeah.
We have some sumo wrestlers in here.
Yeah.
That was fun. Natalia Tena plays Katya, who is in when he goes to Berlin.
Yeah.
Okay,
I love
Were they
her.
Russian
She was
or
cool.
German? They were Russian, right?
Oh.
But they happened to be based in Berlin. I was very unclear
yeah.
because it really sounded like they were speaking Russian.
Yeah. I think they were. I think they're Russian.
Okay. It really threw me for a loop because I know from the third movie.
Or maybe like East
is it
Berlin.
the third movie with Angela.
Not Lansbury.
Bassett.
Not Bassett.
Angelica
Huston.
Like that was all Russian.
Yeah.
Maybe they're Eastern European though, because
I think it's Eastern European.
Because then they say you're like an orphan of Belarus.
Yeah.
Which is Eastern European. So we're probably both wrong.
Because East Berlin is like
Holy crap. She plays
was part of the Soviet Union, right? East Berlin.
I think that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
She plays Nymphadora in Harry Potter.
Who is?
She is with Lupin. She can change her appearance.
Yeah. Yep.
She can,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I see her. Yeah. Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Love that.
I really enjoyed her performance in this movie.
She
She's in
was-
it for like 3 minutes, and I was
Yeah.
like, "You're really popping."
She was great. She's also in About a Boy, Up on the Roof.
Which is about what?
I don't know. And then Scott Adkins plays Killa.
Killa was the name. I like how he laughed after every line delivery.
he was hamming it up
Yeah.
and he was having fun.
Yeah.
So he is a very if you're a stunt fan or a stunt person, Scott Adkins is a household name.
Yeah, he is like the American like stunt guy. Has
Yeah.
a bunch of his own movies that are, they're not necessarily getting like theatrical runs, but
But they have crazy action.
crazy action. He's in Ip Man 4.
Yes.
And it's great. There was an interview that someone did where they said, "Hey, Keanu, how amazing was it working with two martial arts legends, Donnie Yen, and then what was the guy from Bullet Train?"
Man, his name's hard just because it's Hiroyuki Sanada.
Hiroyuki Sanada. And he said his response to that question was 3. Scott Adkins too.
Yeah.
So he knows what's up, which is cool.
Yeah. So most of his filmography are like his own movies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like Accident Man.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Avengement.
Yeah.
Section 8. And he's in a lot.
Yeah, he does some wild stuff in this.
He does in a fat suit.
I know. I was when he showed up in the fat suit and the way the scene was progressing, I was kind of like, "Oh, is he not going to do any martial arts? Like that's weird." And then he does.
Yeah. So that's about it.
Yeah.
More or less. Yeah. Because of course we've covered the others.
Okay.
Spoiler alert! 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 Spoiler alert!
Since right before this movie came out, Lance Reddick passed away.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's always interesting, it's like, okay, we get to see his last role.
Yeah.
And his character dies in it.
We're not in spoiler alert territory, Jordan.
This is the beginning of the movie. It's the
no,
beginning
we can't.
of the movie.
We can't.
But I think that it was very. Are you really going to edit me out?
No, I'm just going to put the spoiler alert before that.
Oh, okay. It's the beginning of the movie, though, so it kind of like gives some characters a lot of motivation.
We're in spoiler
throughout the rest of
alerts
the
now.
movie.
We're in spoiler alerts now.
But they were very reverential, reverent.
Yeah.
To his character, but also it felt good.
It felt nice. Yeah, it was kind of welcome to the spoiler section of the episode.
Oh, gosh.
It felt like very I hate using the word fortuitous, but like it you know like in Last Jedi when Carrie Fisher dies, you think in the movie, and then she's alive, and it's kind of like, oh man, how? And then you start thinking like, how are they gonna do the third movie in this trilogy? Like it's weird, and then they have a lot to work with, or not a lot to work with, and then this movie's kind of like the opposite, where it's like, well, his character was killed, and and then he died, and again, I mean, condolences. I'm not at all like, I wish he was alive. I prefer that.
Absolutely.
But it works in a way that's kind of cathartic when you're watching it. That's what I mean to say.
Yeah, they're very reverent to the character, but it also felt like they were very reverent to it's hard not to think like, oh, they're also showing reverence to the person.
Yeah.
It was very sweet.
Now can you hit me with what's upcoming with Keanu Reeves? Because I wanna talk about Keanu Reeves now before we jump into the movie.
Keanu, upcoming. So in development, he is in a thing called Spy House that has no information.
Okay.
In production, he's in a thing called, so this is how it's spelled, all caps, BRZRKR, Berserker.
Okay.
The comic follows an immortal warrior known as Berserker as he fights his way through the ages. Enough said.
Okay.
John Wick Chapter 5 is on here, but sometimes those things don't mean anything.
Yeah.
And a movie called Outcome, no idea. Oh, Jonah Hill directed, though?
Oh, wow.
Hold on. Well, that's interesting.
Because here's what I think is interesting. John Wick dies in this movie at the end of it.
Yeah.
And it's very fitting, and it's a good job. And they've said that he might show up in the Ballerina movie.
That is on his in production. I'm not done.
Oh, okay.
So Ballerina is also on here.
Okay.
Also Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. I don't know.
That's a video game.
Oh, okay.
Unless they're adapting it, which I don't think they are.
And Constantine 2.
And Constantine 2. Okay. So that's a plethora of things, but there's been, I would say, when Chapter 3 came out, all of a sudden it was like, okay, everyone fully accepts Keanu Reeves except for your dad, and we are like all on board with Keanu Reeves. And then has
my dad seen the John Wick movie though?
I don't think so, because I think he's not willing to give him.
He would love it. He would love it despite having issues with Keanu.
No, but he would still say like he's bad.
But also I think it's easier to convince my dad because he doesn't actively dislike him like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, but he only actively dislikes Tom Cruise because we love him.
Yeah.
If we didn't love him, I think he'd be like, I want to see Mission Impossible, but he has to prove a point about it.
Yeah.
So,
he still talks about Top Gun and how annoyed he is by it, and he hasn't even seen it.
Yeah.
No, he saw it. He didn't like it.
Which is so dumb because it's like, dude, this is like...
It's an American movie.
It's like this movie is like for everyone, and it's not like offensive in any way. Like, it's everyone can watch it. There's no reason why you shouldn't like it. Anyway,
People just got issues with Tom Cruise, and I think part of it is because genuinely he's small.
Yeah, there is
Which
that.
I'm not even getting into the Jack Reacher of it all. I think it's genuinely like, I don't believe he can do that because he's only 5'5".
Yeah, and it's like, okay, but he did a Halo jump. Like, what? When you watch watch an action movie, what do you want to see? You know what I mean? It's like whatever. And it's insane that because when we were watching this movie, I was like, and we'll get back to Keanu, but I was like, okay, this is the year they need to add stunts to the Oscars. It's time.
Yeah.
Like, this kind of stuff needs to start being rewarded. It's stupid that it's not. And I was sitting there and I'm like, this movie would just take it all away. And then I was like, wait a second. In 3 months, or maybe 4 months, in 4 months, Tom Cruise will be returning to theaters with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. And I got so excited that we're getting John Wick Chapter 4 and a Mission Impossible
part 1 too?
Yeah. And we need to rewatch the series.
Yeah.
Because characters keep showing up in the trailers that were only in Mission Impossible 1.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of interesting.
I've seen most of them only one time.
Yeah. But we need to at least watch the first movie again.
I don't want to watch the second one until we cover it for the podcast.
Yeah. But the others are just a joy to watch.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so Keanu, I just think it's fascinating. He comes back. He's at the peak of his career. I think right now he is more popular than he's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And Keanu-sans. And he comes back, does Bill and Ted. People love it. Comes back, does Matrix 4. People don't love it. I love it. You like it. And people don't even hold it against him that he was in that movie, even though people hate that movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great movie. Comes back, John Wick 4, ends John Wick. Apparently might, show up in Ballerina.
Well, that might be a prequel, I guess.
Yeah, that would make sense, but I think he should just stay out of it and just let that be his journey. And I could see that happening.
Didn't you read an article with him too where he is saying it's getting pretty tough?
Well, he is just getting. He said he'll keep doing these movies as long as audiences are on board.
Okay, but he's
that
in
was
his
before,
late 50s.
He's in his, isn't he 59? 59. Yeah, this is hard stuff to do to your body when you're 59. So what I find fascinating, he comes in, it's like he's finished off those franchises. And then he's going to do a Constantine 2 movie. That's great. I'm excited about that. But it's like, what is next for Keanu Reeves? Because I don't think he can keep up doing the action thing unless he pivots into like, hey, I'm Liam Neeson and I'm old and like I got thrown into old action again.
Which reminds me of that hilarious Community joke about Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
When Jeff finds out that Abed has been using his Netflix account. And Abed has changed Jeff's password, so Jeff can't even kick Abed out anymore. And he said, "Is that why my rating of The Grey keeps changing?" and Abed says something, about how that movie's bad, and Jeff's like, "But I like Liam Neeson." And Abed says, "We'll send him a message about the roles he's choosing."
But yeah, I think we're at a weird point in his career. I mean, it sounds like Berserker is a good decision.
Yeah.
But it's like, I hope he doesn't go into like, just the Liam Neeson route.
What I want, I want another Lake House type movie.
Which is a romance, right?
Yeah, with Sandra or not. I mean, it would be, well, apparently Sandra Bullock's retired is the rumor that I've heard.
I heard that, but I think she has like upcoming, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And I actually looked it up and I couldn't find anything.
Okay.
So I think my mom just heard that and misunderstood it or something.
Okay. I guess probably shouldn't take movie facts from your mom at face value because she watches like 5 movies a year.
Yeah. But it's okay.
But no, that's
we
fine.
know you're listening.
But with Sandra, without Sandra, whoever. But it would be great if you did another movie like that.
Keep talking. I'm gonna look up this Sandra Bullock thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just do like a heavy dramatic romance, whether it's high concept like Lake House turned out to be or not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's wild.
Work with Nancy Myers or something. Wait, did she die?
Yeah, there's nothing about
Is Nancy Myers still around?
Nancy
She's
Myers
coming out
is
with
around.
a movie.
Oh my gosh, this is so annoying. So she's coming out with a movie, and the cast is stacked.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited about it actually. And but Netflix
is it like Gary Marshall stacked? like on Valentine.
No. It's like it's got like 4 great actors in it.
Okay.
But the Netflix just dropped it. They were like
right.
the budget is too big or whatever.
Which is just asinine because it's Nancy Meyers.
But it looks like people are going to be it looks like it's going to be picked up by another studio.
Yeah.
And then it'll probably be in theaters, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this cast, there's 4 people announced, and it's Scarlett Johansson, Owen Wilson, Michael Fassbender, and Penelope Cruz.
Right, that's right.
And so I'm like, yeah, let's go. It's called Paris Paramount. Let's go.
Uh-huh.
Nancy, show us the way. But anyway, and also, just a side note, sexism in Hollywood, you're going to give the guys who made Avengers Endgame like a $200 million budget for some stupid Gray Man movie, but you're not going to give Nancy Meyers $130 million to make...
Who has proven time and time again to have huge successes.
Yeah.
Because she's so talented.
Well, this is... Blank Check has covered her.
Yeah.
And it's something that, like, Griffin has talked about, where he's heard of people who've worked on her sets, and she's very, very particular.
Okay.
And it's the kind of thing... Again, sexism in Hollywood, where crews working on her are like, oh, she's so annoying. She really is particular and stuff. But it's the same thing that people say about like David Fincher, but they're like, he's a genius.
Yeah.
But since it's a woman and since it's a romance movie, it's not a genius to be particular about the countertop, you know?
First thing I thought of, which is dated now, like I don't think this would happen today, but it's like we're all okay with Stanley Kubrick actually isolating and alienating a character.
Right.
On The Shining. But we wouldn't be okay if Nancy Meyers wanted to do the same thing.
Yeah, like
that's not okay to do either
20
way.
takes for something. It's like, oh, she's being like emotional about it or whatever BS people say. And it's like, no, she can be particular. She's a proven director.
Yeah.
She's great. So
I'm assuming the people who are in that movie are like very much want to work with her.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be fun. And I'm excited to see Michael Fassbender in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Scarlett Johansson. It feels like she's disappeared after Black Widow. So
romantic comedies or romantic anything for a while, right?
Yeah, I'm ready to get romantic.
That's how I learned about her.
Yeah.
I think anyone.
Yeah. But yeah, so Keanu Reeves, it's just interesting because I do think basically action-wise, I think he's ending the road with action, or he can keep doing Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
And I hope he doesn't do that because it'll get less and less exciting as it goes. But I don't know what he would do if he doesn't do action, you know, because he's really solidified himself as an action star. It's the same thing like if Tom Cruise was like, hey, I mean, when this happens, when he's like, hey, I'm done making Mission Impossible movies, it'd be like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're Tom Cruise. That's your identity.
Yeah.
Although, you know, we know both of these actors can act.
Yeah.
But it's like you have to kind of redefine yourself again, as like a 60-year-old being like, okay, I redefine myself. What would be fun is if it'd be cool if Keanu and Tom were at one point were like, okay, I'm ready to direct. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make my John Wick and I'm Chad Stahelski this time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that would be pretty cool, but we love watching Keanu.
Yeah.
So should we jump into the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're probably going to bounce around quite a bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Action, all that. It's wild. But let's talk about John Wick. How do we start it?
How does the movie start?
So it starts...
Doesn't it not start with him? Oh, no, it does. He's riding a horse in the desert.
Yeah.
And he's shooting off men off horses. Pretty cool.
I know. I was like, okay, I'm pretty into this.
What's this dude's... Oh. Wait. I said the wrong person.
For which part?
The Elder.
The Elder.
That's not the right-hand Marquis man. That's the Elder.
Oh, okay.
So that guy is at the beginning of this movie.
Yes.
The guy that I was referring to, I think, is Marco Zaror.
Yeah.
His character's name is Chidi. Oh, he's Chilean. I couldn't figure out what language he was speaking. Because a couple times he said things, but he would say it as like, por favor. And I could be wrong. They might have their own dialect or they speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
So that guy is in Machete Kills, the Fist of Condor.
That's a cool title for a movie.
Undisputed 3, Redemption, Green Ghost, just so much action. It's crazy.
Okay.
Oh, and Alita, Battle Angel.
Okay. We got to watch that sometime.
Yeah, we do. We've said that every time.
I know.
And then we don't watch it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so he goes to the Elder.
Yeah.
So, okay, what happened to the Elder in the last movie?
So I can't remember if this elder. So in the last movie, he's the one who cuts off John Wick's finger,
And what does that mean again?
and he takes his ring.
And what does that mean again?
I think it's like you dedicated yourself to you like rededicated yourself to the high table. I think.
Oh,
It's been a while, and I didn't rewatch this movie.
Was that to get some kind of protection?
I don't remember.
See, that's where some of the world building is just a little too confusing. It's a little too specific.
No.
Because the Harbinger also has a missing finger.
Yeah, so that implies he went to the elder at some point.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool.
That is a cool detail.
Yeah.
I just can't remember why.
Yeah, so I don't remember why he did that, but he goes this time, and the guy's like, this killing is just going to keep going. There's nothing you can do to stop this, and I'm not as lenient as the last elder. You can't, like, rededicate yourself to me.
Okay.
And he goes, okay, and kills him. And this is when the movie starts doing something interesting already. Like, looking back on it, this movie is questioning its very existence.
It is, throughout.
Because throughout the movie, they're saying, like, John, do you really think this is going to stop? There is no way out of this.
It's Hydra. You cut off its head and 2 more grow back.
Yeah. And so the whole movie, these characters keep going up to him, and they're like, you messed this up. And they're basically saying, like, you should have stopped a long time ago, and you shouldn't have killed that guy back in the Continental.
In the second movie.
Yeah. And so he's just like, okay, but I gotta keep moving forward. And and there's a point where Winston says, like, what will satisfy you? Donnie Yen is talking to him, and he's like, when is your wife even hearing you? Is any of this worth anything? And so the movie is also hinting, like, as the movie was going on, I'm like, this has to be the last one, because they're hitting it. They're hitting it pretty hard. They're really making it like, John, you can't get out of this, but not in the flippant ways of the last ones, where it's like, you can't get out. You always get brought back in.
It's like, we're here for the 4th time. Well, the first time was a unique situation, but we're here yet again,
right?
And nothing's changing,
right? So, I like that. I think that theme is really good, and it works to set you up for the ending.
It is worth noting that Keanu might have the least amount of lines out of anyone.
Yeah.
In this movie, he talks so little.
It's wild.
It is so wild, and I love it.
I love it too.
Because it's like, and so like you said, I do think Donnie Yen's, like, the movie is about Donnie Yen's character. Yeah. It's all happening because of John Wick, but because of, like, what John Wick, the choices he's made. It's like, now we get to see how it affects this one person.
Yeah, exactly.
And in a way, at this point, what more development is there in John Wick?
Right.
Like, he's proven in 4 movies that the man is an unstoppable force.
Right.
He's the Baba Yaga. You can't. You either have to kill him or he'll kill everybody.
Right.
So it's like, there's not much there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, he had so little to say.
You're right.
And he was so dramatic in any line delivery, in a great way. In a great way.
Well, it is
pretty
like,
cool. I think I'll need a gun.
Yeah, I love how the movie starts and he's pounding his fist on that post, and it's shaking the theater. Boom, boom, and then Lawrence Fishburne comes in. And he's like,
who is having the time of his life.
He is.
He is probably besides the Scott Adkins character.
Yeah.
I really felt it in this movie. He is like the most expressive character in this whole movie. And I love it because this movie is kind of full of people just straight faced.
Yeah.
Delivering lines.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And he is like laughing and joking. And he's got his classic Lawrence Fishburne cadence where he's yelling and it ends in a laugh.
Yeah, yeah, and so he sees him, and they call back to the first movie, and he's like, he says, like, "Are you ready, John? Or are you back, John?" And he goes, "Yeah," and he doesn't say, "I'm thinking I'm back," but he goes, "Yeah," and it's like okay, here we go.
Yeah,
and then he goes to the elder, does that stuff.
Yeah,
and then. So pretty soon, like the first part of this movie, and this is where all the table setting is happening, Winston is visited by these people from the Marquee, which is Bill Skarsgård's character.
But it's a harbinger, which means he only brings bad news.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah.
And he brings this huge...
Love his outfit.
Yeah. he brings this huge
Hourglass.
and he flips it on the table and he says, "You have 1 hour. The hotel is condemned and will be destroyed."
Yeah.
So Winston leaves, and the hotel it gets demolished, like blown up.
But before that's happening, he goes to Marquis, Bill Skarsgård's character, and is basically pleading with him.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do to set this right? And it's great. It's a pretty great introduction scene for the Marquis.
Yeah.
Because the hourglass is like up 2 minutes left.
Right.
And he is just taking his sweet ass time, sipping his espresso, putting sugar in it.
Yeah.
And milking this last few minutes.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing Winston can do.
Well, and this is when you see like Winston made it look like he tried to kill John Wick at the end of the last movie, but he purposely did not.
Yeah.
And in this movie, they're like, for that reason, you're condemned. Like you.
We know that you didn't actually try to kill him.
And so in a way, it's kind of like, okay, I understand their motivation, but you're seeing the brutality of the thought. Okay, I get destroying the hotel, but then he goes, now that you're not a hotel owner, you don't need a concierge, and he kills Sharon, yeah. So is that a moment though where it's like, oh, this guy is like bad, like he's not just like just. I think that's when you start seeing that,
because there was no reason for him to kill him.
No,
although later on when we're in Osaka, they do threaten killing his concierge,
right?
But I think that's also just a threat because they know it's his daughter,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's like he's going overkill.
Yeah.
And if anything, Winston thinks he should have been killed, not his concierge.
Okay.
And so that's when it's like, okay, you're fixing chapter 3 for me. Because you're showing that this guy, if he does this one time, he's done it 10 times. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, reacted in this way. And I know that, is he I don't know if he's a member of the High Table, but he's...
Winston?
No, Bill Skarsgård.
I think he is.
He is,
yeah,
okay.
He is, because... The whole reason John Wick had to go back into a family, had to accept him, was so that because one of them has a seat at the High Table and they can challenge Skarsgård because he has a seat at the High Table. I think that is how it worked.
So, yeah, all of that is happening, and it's like, okay, you are literally fixing the third movie. This is great. And then I think at that point they call Donnie Yen in. And again, if we bounce around, that's okay. And Donnie...
Well, that's in Paris.
Okay.
It's an action movie. It's a sweeping action movie, so there's location changes like every scene. But that's so beautiful and great. It's not like a Fast and Furious movie where it's like...
I guess another green
boring
screen.
To look at. Because so then we're back in Paris because Donnie Yen is sitting on a bench at the Louvre outside.
Uh-huh.
Been there. Because I recognized where he was sitting.
Oh, you did?
And he was listening to his daughter playing violin.
Oh, so they were like in the...
Like the court, the yard.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't catch that.
And she was playing violin, and he was listening to her, and then he goes to the Marquis. Like he has an appointment with him, and that's when he commissions him to take down John Wick.
Yeah, and he's like, "Don't make me do this. John was a friend. I'm out. Like I paid my debts." And he's like, sorry, you got to come back in. And so this is, again, when you're seeing the wheels turn.
And is this like, do they have just cause to do this, or is it because of the threat of his daughter? Because he says to him, like, you were by your daughter, you put her in a very dangerous situation today. And it's like, by sitting with her? By, like, sitting and listening to her?
Well, it seems like they have him in such a way. The impression I got is that even though he's out, it's like an understanding where, like, if you get too close to her or whatever, we will still kill her because we still have this leverage. Like, this daughter thing is always hanging over him, but he did something to keep them both safe.
It's definitely an abuse of power, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why that's what makes me go, like, retroactively, I go, like, this shows that the High Table has a history of doing this to people.
Okay.
Because, again, if Bill Skarsgård has done this one time, he's done it 10 times.
Can you remind me in the third movie when he goes to his family, John Wick, and they rip his ticket?
Yeah.
Why do he goes there because he needs something from them, and whatever they did for him meant that he couldn't be a part of their family anymore. Yeah. Do you remember what?
I think they, like, gave him safe passage through something.
And was that to get to the Elder, maybe? Or something
That
else?
might have been, yeah.
Okay. But that was him, like, punching his ticket.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, all of that really works for me. And then Donnie Yen's like, okay, I gotta go kill him.
Yeah.
and then we go to the Japanese Continental
In Osaka.
And boy, howdy, we are talking about some great action. And
At this point, though, we're like 30 minutes in, 20, getting down to 30, and I'm like, I know action has to be coming soon.
Yeah.
I know. I trust that there will be a lot of action in this movie. But I was getting a little bit like nervous that we hadn't hit anything yet.
Yeah.
And I was nervous because the world building is so heavy that we're going to get our first really cool long action scene.
Yeah.
And then it's going to come to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
And by the end of this movie, I will have so many fixes on what they could have cut.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
It pretty much is nonstop. Like you said, I think that they're basically exposition dumping at the beginning so that they don't have to pepper it so much throughout. So at the beginning, I think we covered pretty well what happens at the setting of the table, but you kind of said, like, you know, you could have done 20% less. Is that in this first part? Like, what was something that you had a problem with in the first, like, act of this movie? No, this in talking about it, it all pretty much makes sense. So I think I'm fine with all this, especially with the idea of, like, they're getting it out of the way.
Yeah.
For the rest of the movie. It might be some stuff later that's just a little too showy. For me.
Okay. So I guess let me know when you're there because
But still, like, because I have seen the third movie twice. But it's been a while since we've seen the third movie, and it's pretty detail heavy. Yeah. So for this first part of the movie, I was kind of like, I don't quite remember what's happening. Yeah. And, like, I know the basic things of what's happening, but the vocab words they're throwing out there, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Right. So that's like definitely, I just think there's a little too much that kind of stuff in general. Okay. I don't know. I don't think you, like, need to cut any of it for runtime, but it's just a lot. Okay. Well, we'll go for it each time that we'll talk about it and see if we can figure it out. Because to me, like, the genius of this movie that I feel like most people felt about the third one, but I felt about this one is, like, from the very first John Wick movie, when they established the world where he called someone and said, "Hey, I need, like, a body clean." And the guy shows up and there's the police and he goes, "Hey, John, you back to work?" And he goes, "Maybe." And then the guys come in, he gives them a coin. Like, from then on, everyone was like, oh, this is a weird world. That's cool. And they've been exploiting that throughout all of the movies. And this one was like, you pushed it all the way in a way that I was like, yeah, this all makes sense. It all tracks. This is truly great world building that each successive movie has built upon. Yeah. And again, even retroactively, for my money, you're fixing the world building that was in the previous movie. And so, like, they just identified, we want to see Keanu Reeves fighting, and we want to see this weird world. This is what makes this not a Liam Neeson action movie. Sure. This weird world. Sure. And so, to me, this movie, like, was the full, like, payoff of that. Okay. I do agree with that. Yeah. I do think that if I still went back and watched the third one, I would still have the same problems. Like I think I said at the beginning of this episode, that I would have less of in this movie. Because it's like, I think they have a better handle on it or something. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But when we are at the Continental in Osaka, we meet the tracker character. He checks into the hotel. He has his emotional support dog, which freaking rocks. Yeah. And I do love, though, it was like funny that his notebook, like, cracked me up every time he opened it. Yeah, it was very, like, tropey. Yeah, where he opens it up and he's like no idea what he's like has sketches of John Wick and stuff, and then he's like the diary of a serial killer. Yeah, it reminded me of, like, Joker's notebook where it's like everybody needs to effing die. All of my inks are all my pens are really runny, and there's ink all over the pages. And then he's like, what is he doing? Because he has that one page that's like increments of millions of dollars going up. Yeah, and he clearly wants to get to, like, 50 million. Well, so throughout the movie, he's just crossing out, like, oh, now it's up to 20. Ooh, but we only saw that one time. But it's like, now we're up to 40. I know. It's pretty funny. I just thought it was funny that when he crossed out the million and then he circled the 18 million. I was like,
what?
Yeah, I
But
didn't
then
really get it.
when he kept on pushing it up, I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I really don't think we needed him to do that.
No.
And it's weird that he knows what
Well, one time
increments
too,
it's going to go up
in that scene when he's flipping, it seems like mindlessly through the notebook.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the Keanu Reeves sketches, which is like, oh, he's in love with him. But
I
it
know.
looks like he has these sketches of him and he's looking up at people. And what he's doing is he's noticing the marquee is showing up.
Uh-huh.
But it almost looks like he's like, is that guy John Wick?
Oh, that's what I
Oh, is
thought. I
that
didn't
guy
even
John
catch
Wick?
the marquee one. I thought he was looking for John
No, he
Wick.
notices that's like something like there's some weird energy happening because like these
Right.
These
Oh,
marquee
no,
people are
yes,
coming in.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it almost felt like because he was looking down at the portraits, like that's not him. No, I don't think that's him either.
Yeah, and when he was introduced that way, I was kind of like, okay, I don't know about this character at first. But yeah, so
But then we find out that John Wick is at this Continental.
yeah,
He because
he's friends with the Continental owner,
Yeah.
and that guy's like, my loyalty of friendship is more important to me than the rules of the high table.
Shimazu.
Shimazu, is that the character name?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And-
yeah, he's there for a like little safe haven.
Yeah.
So who tips off the marquee that he's there?
It seems like, and I don't know, maybe on rewatch we would catch it, but it seems like the Bill Skarsgård is just like,
He's just going.
he's
to all
friends
of them?
with him, so let's get rid of his hotel.
Oh, because at that point they all know that his friends are very few.
Yeah,
And they've recruited one of his friends, Donnie Yen.
yeah. So and
Okay.
I think again that shows like his evil where he doesn't even have information that's leading him there, and he's like, condemn the hotel,
Sure.
which will result in killing people probably.
Sure.
And so the concierge, she starts evacuating the hotel discreetly,
Yeah.
and then John Wick's up on the roof, and they begin talking.
You know, I thought her performance was just okay.
Oh, I thought she was good.
The action with her was great. She was
Yeah.
awesome. But I thought she was okay.
I liked. I thought it was cute and fun character writing when she
With
was
the daughter stuff.
when she was talking to her dad, and she's like, "You have an appointment with your daughter for dinner who thinks you're working too hard," and he's like, "Oh, she seems to think that she knows best." And then later in the scene, he's like, "I'll see you at dinner" or whatever,
Yeah,
and I was
no,
like,
that was
"Oh,
cute.
she's the daughter."
It was cute. Yeah.
So they meet with John Wick up on the roof, and then the Continental gets flooded, and the Marquis guys come in, and all of these Continental guys have bow and arrows locked on these guys, and then like an army walks in the door.
Before that, he's walking like through the kitchen, and there's all of his like henchmen, like security guards, and he's like, "We have some guests at the Continental, and they're going to be needing our hospitality." And they're like, "Okay, go to the fridges, pull out the guns, pull
the
out
samurai
the bows."
swords and stuff. And
so-
what ensues is an action scene that I think beats every other action scene in John Wick
Really?
up to this point.
Okay.
It was absolutely
It was great.
bonkers. Bow and arrow, and it is. I saw I saw Patrick Willems' letterbox on the movie, and he said something to the effect of, "It's like Chad Stahelski saw my video about John Wick," which I know he didn't, but it's like he saw it and thought, "Yeah, he's right. When we use just shotguns and bigger assault rifles, it's not as much fun."
Yeah.
And he replaces it with nunchucks and bow and arrows. And I'm like,
And
this
throwing
is
stars.
better. Yeah. And so there's insane action throughout this whole thing.
All of the
And we're not even
henchmen-
seeing John Wick yet.
No, and all the henchmen look like Green Goblins.
Yeah. They have those crazy masks on them.
Yeah.
And here was something I noticed, and I don't remember if this was in chapter 3, but in chapter 2, he gets the body armor suit where it can block bullets, and so he uses it to block bullets, which is such a clever.
The Marquis guys have that too.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say.
Oh, sorry.
So it's such a clever way to like be able to do what the gun fu kind of
Yeah.
stuff in this. But in the third movie, I don't remember any other characters having it except for John Wick still.
Yeah, but maybe it was new, and by this time
Well,
everyone has it.
But this is what I'm saying.
That's fashion, babe.
What I'm saying is I think this is great world building because you're watching the movie and then all the marquee characters have those suits as well. And it's just a great way to like unify the world, because when you're sitting there and you're like, how come John Wick has it but no one else has it?
Yeah. Well,
And in this movie, it's like, no, everybody's got it.
it's like a video game. We're on the next level in this movie.
Yeah.
And now everyone is as powerful as he is from the last movie. So he has to work even harder to level up.
Yeah. But yeah, then Donnie Yen, during this whole fight, he's eating noodles.
Yeah.
And then they're like, dude, you got to do your job. And he sets up these devices all over this kitchen. And you're like, what are these?
Yeah,
I'm
what
thinking,
is
like,
that?
are they explosions? He sets
Yeah.
one up,
But
and then he's like,
pretty close to them.
it's
So I
too
didn't.
high.
Yeah.
And then he sets it down. And then all of a sudden, someone walks by one and it goes, bing bong. And then he gets up and, like, shoots the person. And then bing bong, starts shooting them. And I was like, no way with this. No way.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And he's just got such a cool aura. And he does the machine gun punch.
He does.
He does the wind up punch.
Crazy.
Man, Donnie Yen is so cool. Could you imagine having that much coolness?
No, I actually can't.
I can't.
And I don't think he kills these people,
No, that's
which was interesting.
no. He would kill. No. Oh yeah, because he's on the Marquis side. Yeah, he's not killing them. He's just knocking them unconscious.
Yeah.
because he doesn't want to kill them.
Note.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's only been hired to kill one person.
Uh-huh. And then eventually John Wick gets into this fight where he loses his guns and he then has nunchucks.
Uh-huh.
And this is when I was just cackling the whole time because I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe, because, the most I know about nunchucks usually is like America's Funniest Home Videos. Someone hits themselves with in the crotch.
Yeah.
Hits himself with a crotch. But man, you're seeing the brutality of nunchucks, and I'm like, man, if someone knows how to use those things, you're in trouble.
I'm curious what the prop nunchucks are. Like if they're just like foam or
they
something.
They gotta be foam,
yeah,
right?
because I mean, he's hitting that guy in the head like a windmill.
Yeah, that would hurt so bad.
Yeah.
And it's another great room that has like a lot of glass to shatter.
Yeah.
So they're just like shattering all this glass. And then there's a great moment where he's fighting Donnie Yen, and then it gets to a point where it's all quiet. And it's not the Western Front. But Donnie Yen goes,
okay.
John, you dead? And there's no answer. And then John sees a gun and he moves and he crinkles a little bit of glass.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fight ensues again.
Mm-hmm.
Then he gets out and we can assume the Continental is destroyed there.
Well, then Donnie Yen catches up with Shimazu.
Yes.
And he does kill him.
He does.
So, is it Shimazu? I'm not looking it up again.
You said that. That's what you
said. His daughter's been injured or has been shot. He's also been shot. So they're trying to get to a location, which I'm assuming means that they'll be safe.
Yeah.
And helped. But Donnie Yen beats them.
Yeah.
And so he starts fighting Shimazu it was a sword fight. Man, it looks so good. And man, I have just never seen someone stab like this before.
Yeah.
In an action anything where it's just so quick. But like with the fatal blow, he goes all the way through him and out.
Quickly.
Like in less than a second.
Yeah. His daughter, remember when she's attacking that big guy and he's walking up the stairs and she's just like,
that was so cool. That was so cool. She was climbing up him with knives.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think he kills him because he did help John Wick. Like he is the one responsible for it.
Yeah.
And the daughter catches up with John Wick and is like, you're the reason, like you killed my dad.
Yeah.
And either you're going to go kill that guy or I am.
Yeah.
And that's when she departs. That's her, that part of the story is over.
Yeah. But it's cool because maybe you just said this and I phased out, but Donnie Yen says, he says, I'll be expecting you. Or something
to
like
her,
that.
Yeah.
So the expectation of like, I know you're gonna want revenge.
Yeah.
And I know you'll want to kill me, but I'll be ready.
Yeah.
But in a way that's almost like knowing and almost loving. Like
it's just the job.
It's the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that happens.
Yeah.
And then John Wick is where do they go after that? Do they go to Berlin next?
I don't think so. Does he catch up with Winston at the in New York?
Yeah, and
it might be that.
That's where Winston's like, how are you going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And he goes, what's your plan? Like, you're just senselessly killing people. I've lost the Continental.
I lost my best friend.
Yeah, and then he says, there is one way out, John. And that's if you challenge him to a duel.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, what is that? And he goes, well, that's the old ways, and the old ways have to be respected. and then he goes, but you need a seat at the high table to like send the message and to make it official. And then he goes, so you can either talk to your family, or he says, so you need to talk to your family. He goes, they punched my ticket, which happened in the last movie. And then he goes, well, then I suggest you either go to Berlin and get back in and get your ticket amended, or you find yourself a plot, a grave plot, because they're at Sharon's grave, or Sharon. And what does his grave say? Just like a friend?
Friend.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
Because the whole movie, Winston's like,
Well,
how do you sum up a person's life?
Not the whole movie at that one part.
One line.
He's basically, what do you guys want on your gravestone, your
Yeah.
headstone? Yeah, and he said for Sharon, I put friend, because that's what he was.
Yeah. And then John Wick says,
Well, Lawrence Fishburne's like, long live the king.
yeah.
And then I think Winston said something, I forget what he said, but then Fishburne's like, it's a prophecy.
Yeah, yeah.
And he like, of course, probably belly laughs.
Yeah. And then John Wick says, loving husband.
Yeah.
Which kind of has an emotional moment at the end.
Because that's what it's literally all been for.
Yeah. So then he has to go to Berlin.
Yeah.
And he goes to Berlin. He meets with the East Berlin, like Germany, Russian type people. Like, so we couldn't get
kind of throughout this movie, we don't learn a lot about the tracker character.
No.
But what
he just keeps popping up.
He keeps popping up. It's clear that he is only interested in killing John Wick for the bounty throughout the whole movie. And at a certain point, he goes to Marquis.
Yeah.
And says, like, I will do this for you for this much money, and then you match my 401k with this much money. Yeah. So he negotiates a price. It starts at like $23 million for it. And then this part was a little like, I don't really care about it.
No, this is cool, and I'll tell you why. But go ahead.
But they shake hands on it, and then Skarsgård stabs a knife through his hand, and he said, there's two different ways to go about this. Just pull the knife out or pull your hand out.
Yeah, and he says one is selfish and shows that you are serving yourself, and the other shows that you serve others.
Yeah.
So if he pulls his hand out, it shows that he has service to the high table.
So I guess I just don't get. Well, go ahead.
So here's what's cool about this, and I noticed this before.
Okay.
But I just didn't know how it happened. But Donnie Yen at one point before this scene takes off his glasses, and he has scars above his eyes.
That is how he's
through.
Blind. Yeah.
Yeah, and in my head I was like, oh, so he got those in battle, is what I thought, or he was given those scars. But then later in the movie, at this scene, he's talking to the tracker, and he goes, be careful what you agree to.
Oh,
and then when he comes out, he's or like later in the movie, they talk, maybe it's in the same scene, I can't remember, and he says, I can't believe they took your eyes, and he says, I gave my eyes.
So is that how they can always get him to come back?
Well, the implication there is that they said they were gonna blind him or not blind him, whatever. And much like the hand thing, he was given the choice of like, you either get out not blind, or you give us your eyes and give your service to the high table, and you'll always be under our foot.
Okay.
And so that's why I think it all works to me. So it's like,
so it seems like this tracker guy is like a young buck that is maybe a little like, yeah, whatever, I'll do this thing.
Yeah.
Because I just want my money.
Yeah.
Like he's more motivated by that than like he does, like Donnie Yen saying, like you don't fully
you just keep bumping the mic.
You don't fully understand. Like you need to like understand your word, like your bond.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a part of the movie where that character is still so motivated by the money of it all.
Yeah.
That it doesn't take until the end of the movie for him to understand.
Right. And that's
that kind of stuff.
Like the Donnie Yen is like, at one point, him and John Wick were like him. They're in it for the money. They're doing it for the money, and they gave themselves up to the high table.
That's fine.
And Donnie Yen gave up his eyes, I would guess, probably years before he even had his daughter.
Oh, I was thinking maybe it had something to do with his daughter.
Well, but the fact that he gave them up makes me feel like that, and then now it's like, I wish I hadn't have done that, and wish I'd have stayed out of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So
okay. So it's like selling your soul to the devil.
Yeah, yeah, and you're giving your service, and that's your pledge in your own body. So to me, when it was like, okay, whatever, when he cuts his hand, but then when Donnie Yen said, like, I gave my eyes, I was like, okay, that's really cool. So anyway, then So John Wick is in this situation where in order to amend his ticket, he has to go kill this guy who killed Pietro.
Yeah.
Now,
Who is that?
I couldn't remember.
Oh, okay.
Can you talk about the scene while I look it up?
Yeah, he goes to Berlin and goes to, it seems like a Russian Orthodox. Oh, well, no, we think it's Eastern European, but whatever. Something like a Russian Orthodox church.
Okay. Yeah.
Where he meets with the family. They want to kill him because of all the things that he's responsible for that's affected them. And so it's like basically like, why should we let you live? Because I think like they ripped his ticket and then so many things went wrong for them because of it is what I was led to believe.
Yeah.
But they said like, we'll reinstate you if you avenge Pietro's death.
Now, Pietro is the guy at the beginning of John Wick 2 who has the car that he goes up to
in his office.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, take the car, debts are paid, we're good. And John Wick is like, okay, we're good, and leaves.
So Killa killed him.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Played by Peter Stormare.
Yes. Who is the guy from Fargo.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's in Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and gets eaten by all of those raptors. Because remember, Steven Spielberg said that he wanted revenge for his character putting the woman in putting the guy in the wood chipper.
Oh.
or the woman, was it?
It was the.
Yeah, he puts the woman in the wood chipper, right?
No. Steve Buscemi.
He puts Steve Buscemi. Yeah.
Yeah. She gets out.
Yeah, that's right. It's been a long time.
I know.
I couldn't remember. Man, that movie rocks. Yeah. So then he goes to Berlin.
Yeah.
He meets Scott Adkins. And I love this because this is this movie is so great also because it's doing like, this is full on mixed martial arts movie. And also it is a full on Western and awesome. Okay. So they go and they have to literally go to a card table and gamble. Like, okay, cool. We're doing a Western now, but yet there's like club music playing. And these huge fans that would really bother my eyes if I had to play a card game in there. But every set is just so gorgeous. And I'm like, you know what? Screw realism. I'm done with realism in movies. I want to see places that look like this. Unless you're doing like Spotlight or something.
Okay, sure.
I want to see exaggerated stuff.
But this is fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Donnie Yen and Tracker are
all
on his every move, so they show up. And so, well, first of all, who's the character that brings John Wick in? It's just so funny that
I am Klaus.
Yeah, so they have Donnie Yen be blind again, which that's totally fine.
Yeah,
but it's like, guys, he was in Rogue One blind.
Yeah,
but again, that's totally fine. But then they also just have an I Am Groot character for no reason, which I just thought was very funny and kind of strange. So they're at the card table.
And Scott Adkins like, we're gonna play a deal. Whoever loses dies.
Yeah.
So they play 5-hand draw.
Yeah.
And they all have really good hands, but the Tracker has a royal flush. And it's funny because Donnie Yen's like, oh, I bet that my hand's really good. I'm kidding. I'm blind. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he throws it down. He's got an okay hand, but then Scott Adkins has a 5 of a kind, which of course is not possible. And so they're all like, "Oh, you're a cheater." And then John Wick's, he's like, "Yeah, he's a cheating bastard or something." And they're all like, "Oh," and it's this moment where the three of them are like, "All right, we're not going to kill each other yet. We got to kill this guy."
I think Donnie Yen says in Mandarin, Chinese, I don't know, like he calls him a cheating a-hole.
Yeah,
and then John Wick turns to him, "Yeah, he is."
Yeah, and then it's just this moment where they're like, all right, the John Wick problem is not going to be today. Right now, we're getting this guy. And then we have this epic battle where it reminded me of The Matrix.
Yeah, me too.
It was like, oh, this is cool. Where people are just clubbing and it's just a huge fight.
Yeah. It's awesome.
He's chasing Scott Adkins and they have this huge fight. They do the first huge fall for Keanu.
Oh gosh, man, that looked detrimental.
Well, it's something I finally figured out within the internal logic of the movie is if your body armor can prevent you from getting shot, then it should be able to protect you against falls too. The suits.
Okay.
And so that's how I can like justify the insane falls.
That makes no sense, but in this movie it probably does.
You know what, Jordan? I think we are getting a couple things confused, so let's just go see the movie again and then finish recording. And I am being serious, okay? Let's do it. We're going to go see the movie again, audience, and then we'll come back and we'll tell you about the rest of it.
So
we made
guys,
it back.
We just saw the movie a second time. I can't hear myself. Now I can. We just saw the movie for a second time. Happy to report that not only does it hold up, but it's better the second time around. And we are not joking. We saw this movie again.
We really
day,
saw it.
Or not same day. Next day, same exact showtime. And our anniversary episode has not come out yet. But in that episode, I don't remember if people know what movie we're talking about, so I'm not going to say what it is.
Okay.
But we talk about how we loved that movie so much, we saw it the next day.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how I actually can't remember the last time I've done that.
Yeah, this was the one that did it.
Movie. And well, now I can. It's John Wick Chapter 4.
Yeah.
Who doggy?
Yeah, and it seems like, I mean, we'll be getting into these specific. It feels like we're about to start a new episode,
I know.
but we'll be getting into specifics. But I feel like it may have fixed potentially some of your, like you already mentioned one thing that when you first saw it, you're like, that's an eye roll kind of, and then when you watch it, you're like, oh, I get it now. That's cool.
Yeah,
but we're not there yet.
Okay.
So we're in Berlin, and He's fallen off, and what do we love about Keanu Reeves? Well, there's two things that he does, and every time he does it, we like it. And it's when he is in a club where people are dancing and don't really care about what else is happening, and he has to do something. Mm-hmm. We've seen that in Matrix, although he's off having sex with Trinity, but still, it's intercut.
They're also talking during a club scene. In the first one.
And then there's that. There's the John Wick club scene. There's like a club scene in every John Wick movie. We love to see the man with a gun running through a crowd. Mm-hmm. Then what else do we like? We like to see him fighting in the rain. Mm-hmm. And Chad Stahelski says, what if he fights in the rain and a club where it's raining? So he does that. I was really watching both times that, like, it's funny how the people in the club just dance through it all. And I'm like, I get it, it's loud and stuff, but then kind of randomly they all start leaving. It seemed like there wasn't a point that made sense.
During the fighting, some people stopped dancing and they were freaking out.
But that's way into the. I was clocking it on this time. It's way into the fight.
Actually, the second time watching it, I'm curious how they direct a scene like that. Because there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it is like the environment is loud. I wonder if there's like a rule, like you're just dancing, you're having a good time. If you get bumped, look at what's happening.
Yeah.
And freak out.
Yeah.
And go and run away from it. That's like the only thing I can think of to make it not be chaos.
Right.
Or be like no one's paying attention at all, which doesn't seem realistic.
Well, what's hilarious is knowing, and this is what I think about, like, anytime there's a club scene, is knowing when we see it, we're just hearing it's just that all you're hearing are people's sneakers like
I know.
And then you're just hearing like,
I know, it's funny. Another a cool thing in this scene too, which is another just like it's an action movie, but it's not your everyday action movie. But something to also make it different aside from the set piece.
Yeah.
These henchmen are going to be having hatchets.
Yeah.
And it just seems it's such a strange choice, but they have hatchets, so there's some crazy axe throwing stuff going on in people's heads and stuff. And this is intercutting with Kane / Donnie Yen's character, continuing to machine gun stab people with his sword. And I love that part where he like releases a light bomb, like a sensory bomb.
Yeah, and he says "lights out, assholes," because he can't see it.
Yeah.
Donnie Yen is so unbelievable because he has these mannerisms throughout the movie, and he'll do these things that are like, oh, he did that. That is not in the script. Nobody told him to do that.
Do you mean acting wise?
Yeah, I mean acting wise. Like the way he reacts to the light.
Yeah.
And then later in the movie, there's something he does toward the end of the movie at the stairs that's just such a Donnie Yen thing to do, where it's like, I'm going to react to this in a certain way.
It's just, he's so good. He is
unbelievable.
So wonderful in this movie.
And if you need a more Donnie Yen fix and you haven't seen him, we've covered the Ip Man movie, so you can go back a couple years and listen to our coverage on that, where we had actual like martial artists.
And if you're
on
like,
it.
who is this Donnie Yen? I've never even heard of the jabron.
You're
You
wrong.
have
Get outta here.
because you've seen Rogue One.
Yeah.
And he is in Rogue One, and he's awesome in it too.
Yeah.
But you can get a feel you never dreamed. You watch Rogue One and you're like, whoa, that's a cool martial artist that added a lot of fun stuff to this movie, and you know that you want more.
Right.
And there is so much more you can have. There's so much more he gives you.
But he really gets his due in this one.
Yes.
Like I'm pretty sure I said, but now I'm confused because of the way we recorded this. But I think that he's the main character of this movie.
You did say that.
Okay, yeah. I really do think that he is the main character and he makes this movie work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have this big long fight. It's an incredible set.
Yeah.
I mean, this is I saw someone pointing out like that it's awesome that Chad Stahelski goes, okay, they give him $100 million budget. He's made it. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, I think with the third movie, it was pretty blank check for him, but still, it's like, okay, you're getting $100 million to make this movie.
Mhm.
And he doesn't go, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to add like a CGI character. I mean, that wouldn't work in this world, but you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like the temptation is always to go with CGI. That's the David Leitch move.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, cool, I have $100 million. Let's build some of the craziest sets people have ever seen.
And let's put Scott Adkins, beloved stuntman, in a fat suit.
Yeah. It
And
really
his
is
performance
incredible.
is good too.
He's great.
He's so
great.
funny.
I'd like to watch his movies,
Yeah.
his famous ones.
Yeah.
But so they have this big long fight. It's really good, and eventually he knocks Scott Adkins down these stairs, and Scott Adkins lands on his head, and it kills him.
Oh, but you're not saying for real. You're saying the character.
Yeah, the character.
Yeah.
But again, this is the other thing though. When you're watching these movies, when these people are falling off stuff, it's not CG. I don't know how they're pulling this off.
Scott Adkins, the actor, is not landing on his
No,
neck.
I know that.
Okay.
But even watching it a second time, I'm like, I've seen falls that are fake, and
Yeah.
you always know when they're fake
Yeah.
because we still haven't quite figured out how to do it
Yeah.
with CGI.
I would be more interested in knowing how they do the John Wick fall when John
Yeah.
falls in this scene on that beam, that concrete beam.
I think
Because
it's
that's like,
just a
how does it
person.
not break every rib in your body?
Yeah, I think someone just did it,
And that just was padded, and then they the thing's padded, they're padded, and they're dramatizing.
and then the floor is
impact.
padded as well. And I think,
Man, it really looks so terrible.
but that's still like, oh, that's your
Terrible
one
meaning
take,
violent.
and then like that actor's like wrapped for the day.
Yeah.
and they're probably not working till like next week.
Yeah. To recover.
Yeah, there's so many falls in this movie, and none of them look fake.
No.
It's truly like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And even in the third movie, when he gets shot off of the hotel, you can see where it kind of like CGs, and they're kind of stitching it together. At
In the third movie,
end
you
of the-
said?
yeah.
Okay.
But in this movie, I didn't notice that on any of the falls.
Not fall wise, but the most obvious CG that I noticed in the movie was during the Arc de Triomphe scene.
yeah,
It was at the very beginning, especially with people getting hit by cars.
yeah,
That was the most obvious. But no, it wasn't even that. It was before he even gets there. It's the first time he got hit by a car.
yeah.
It was just very. It almost feels like they sped up the frame rate, but it was just a CGI thing, and it just looked a little janky. But
Well, and they do, they remove frames.
yeah,
For hits and stuff like that in action movies. That's why sometimes there's like a janky, but you still feel like an impact.
yeah,
But yeah, in the Arc de Triomphe scene, a lot of the cars are CG. But
Yeah.
but what blew me away is when someone did get hit by a car. For the most part,
yeah,
maybe the car was CG, but they still had like an actor on wires flying in the air because the actor was still like a physical person getting thrown somewhere.
right,
And so it's like, okay, the car maybe looks a little fake, but it doesn't look that bad. And the actor is real. Like
Yeah.
he is actually like doing a flip.
yeah,
It's so freaking insane.
yeah.
It's and my goodness, the audience both nights
People yucked it up. They
Yeah.
loved it.
and now that it's Sunday, I can tell you the movie's opening around 75,
Wow.
which rated R, non-superhero, that's huge.
Yeah.
The last one was like 56. And that was also like each one has gotten bigger.
Yeah.
And Shazam has dropped like 70 or something like that. 70%.
Wow.
It's gonna make like no money, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But
I honestly expected.
yeah. It's a bummer because it's a good movie. I wish we would have like rejected a different superhero movie because I think it's a good movie.
Yeah.
But it's also like if you're gonna see a movie, don't waste your time with Shazam. You can watch John Wick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the Scott Adkins character dies. John Wick pulls out one of his gold teeth. That's the proof of his death.
Yeah.
Goes back to the family, and they bring him back into the fold.
Yeah, they give him the crest.
Yeah, they give him the crest. They give him the note that the family declares a duel against the Marquis.
Yeah.
And John Wick goes in their stead for it. So then we get that really cool scene with Winston walking through the Louvre.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a long walk.
That's
they're
when
really
I was
showing
like,
off like, guys, we got the Louvre.
Yeah, that's when I was like, they have to have actually gone there because
Yeah.
this would be such a waste to like replicate all these paintings or
Yeah.
put them in a green screen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the paintings are specifically about the French Revolution.
Yeah.
And that
Well, some of them because there's also like Christ in a couple
but
of them.
but a lot of it is because it's an organized museum.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is French Revolution stuff. Because remember in the Louvre there's like one hall, probably more than one, where it takes you through like Napoleon's in every single painting.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's showing like that was that battle, and so on.
And I
so
think
forth.
there was like a Jesus and Apostles Hall as well.
And that might have been painted during the Revolution and signified this part of it too.
Yeah.
Or after the Revolution, but it meant this thing. I just love it.
Yeah.
And so he has the declaration of the duel.
Uh-huh.
Winston gives it to the Marquis, and is basically, doesn't necessarily have to convince him, but the Marquis is like, well, why would I do this?
Right. But he doesn't want to do it. He's a coward,
he is.
But
so I understood better the second time around that I didn't quite catch this the first time.
Yeah.
And it's totally me.
yeah,
But
it's you.
the high table consisting of 12 people, I guess, all signed this document that gave him like the sole power to take care of the John Wick situation. And I can't remember at what point, but at some point during the movie, Winston reminds him, if you don't take care of this, what you said you were going to do, your power means nothing. They're just going to kill you.
Right. Okay.
So
yeah.
he says it at some point during the movie. Maybe it's even the scene. But so he lets him know this is going to happen, and I can't remember what else he says.
Well, he says, but if you were the person who killed John Wick, you won't just be another Marquis. Think of the power that could give someone in our world.
Yeah.
If you're the one who killed him.
Yeah.
So he's tempting him with the duel.
We're surrounded by a hall / paintings of servants remembering a man's victory.
Yeah.
Specifically talking about just about people who were in power at that time.
Uh-huh.
But you could be the person that is remembered in a much better way.
Yeah.
Than this part of history. Yeah.
A way to connect those dots with the paintings.
Well, he references the paintings at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Still, you're connecting more dots than they explicitly say. So good job.
It's just if you're gonna shoot in the Louvre, you got to have some meaning behind it rather than just showing off.
No, yeah, I agree.
But also show off a little bit.
I agree. That's what this whole movie does. So they're gonna do the duel now. One thing I wanted to mention: Kane, we find out was John Wick's name when he was working.
Yeah,
which is cool, and
to
I
which
like that.
I think that means trying to recall things, because Kane famously killed his
spelled
brother.
Different.
How is it spelled different?
It's Caine.
Isn't that how you spell it?
No, it's Cain in the Bible.
But maybe that's in this language it's spelled that way. So I really think Donnie Yen was given the name Kane because he is being contracted as an assassin to kill another assassin.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, if that's the case,
that's the simplest explanation for me for why you would have that title.
I just thought I imagined it. I like yours better, by the way. But I just when I heard it, I was just like, oh, it's like 007. It's like, oh, this is the new 007. Like John Wick's out, and here's 007.
Okay,
that's how I viewed it. But that's cooler.
Yeah,
if that's the case, like they have a Kane when they need it.
Yeah,
but also like at the beginning they're like, get Kane. It's not like this is a newly bestowed title to him, but maybe that's what he's been doing. He's had to like kill other people, but it doesn't seem like that.
No, it doesn't.
But it doesn't say it's not. So we could go with your way. I mean, that's cool. So they meet at sunrise or something.
Not yet.
To decide what the duel
They're
is.
negotiating the terms of the duel.
Yeah. And this is cool. They just have like these like metal card glass things that they flip over, and whoever has the highest number gets it.
Gets what they want.
Yeah, so it's like, what time is the duel? Now, John Wick says. He says sunrise. He gets it. Then it's like, what?
He meaning Marquis.
Yeah, and then another one. He goes, what type of weapons? And the Marquis says swords. Which, if you've seen the movie, at first I thought, oh, the Marquis just must be good at swords. But we know in hindsight, having seen it now, that he actually knows that Kane is more versed in swords than John Wick, and he's going to nominate him, which I thought was a cool touch. But he loses that, and it's John Wick with the pistols. Which also later in the movie, when they make it up the stairs, I love that Kane slices his hand because he knows like he's more versed in pistols, and I gotta even the score because he'll kill me. That's how I took that.
Oh, so he cut his shooting hand, his dominant hand.
I think so.
Oh,
I mean, I didn't catch which one, but
it was his right hand.
Okay, yeah, then yeah.
Okay.
I think. Anyway,
I didn't think about it like that, but
I just felt like he's it's like if it was swords, he'd be set. He wouldn't be worried. But since it's guns, it's like John Wick will kill me. He knows better. That's his weapon.
He's also not blind. I mean, quite honestly, they have to shoot each other at 30 paces away.
Oh, John Wick.
Yeah, John Wick's not blind.
I'm like, yeah, Donnie Yen is. But yeah, so then they decide on this duel. They're gonna do it, and so I was kind of like, I guess we're wrapping up the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it kind of feels like the Berlin scene wasn't like the climactic action scene. So they do something really smart as a writing thing that's just genius, where they go, the Marquis basically says, yeah, he's going to get there at sunrise. I just don't think he's going to make it. And what ensues is, I don't know, 40 minutes?
But before that, he goes to the church.
Yes. That's most important.
He has some unfinished business to take care of. He goes to a church and he prays to his wife. And it's just a nice moment between him and Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
Where, John doesn't actually think he's talking to his wife, but what if he's wrong?
Yeah, I love that.
And we, learn a little bit more about Kane and his relationship to his daughter and how he's like, I'm damned because of the life that he's chosen, but my daughter's not. And just kind of saying like, I have to do this all for my daughter.
Yeah. And he says that moment where he goes, it's nice to sit here with a friend, John.
Yeah.
Oh, emotional. Good.
Yeah. So then John goes to like the French Bowery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where Lawrence Fishburne shows up with his new Kevlar suit.
Yeah. A man's got to look his best when he's getting married or buried.
And this is being intercut with we're with the operators who there's a his bounties has been going up throughout the whole movie. And it's common knowledge that he needs to make his way to the Sacred Heart Church.
Yeah.
And he needs to do it by sunrise. He is here right now. We know he's here. Guys, you're assassins. Do your job and you'll get $25 million or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I love how they shot that so much, but we can get there in a second because then there's that other sweet moment.
Yes.
Where the Lawrence Fishburne and Winston are taking John to through the sewers to the point where he's going to go up to the ground and go to the church. And that's when they talk about headstones, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And that's when, John wants a loving husband.
Right.
So then, like you're saying,
there's heart in the movie. It's kind of wild that they pull it off.
It's great.
From where this series has gone, for them to loop it around and be like, no, but there's a heart at the middle of this.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I think too, it's always fun too to try and figure out like if they're telling you if their main character is going to die or not throughout the movie. And I feel like at a point, and when he's in the church with Donnie Yen tells him like, I'm going to kill you, John.
Yeah.
And John says, maybe not. And then when we're at this scene with Winston and the king, he's like, I want loving husband. And it's like, that does feel like when this is over, I am done.
Yeah.
I want to be dead. You know?
I did think on the second watch that the way John says maybe not feels like not him saying like I'm gonna kill you, but it's like he's saying there might be another way out of this.
Which that's probably there's subtext there for sure. Yeah. So then we get like the next 40 minutes of what you're saying, which is probably it's definitely my favorite part of the movie. But I love this first part. I forget where he gets led up into the streets, but it's being the pacing is so cool with the lady who is the disc jockey.
Yeah.
And she's putting on different songs throughout to help accompany all of the fighting.
Yeah.
Have a very, very cool painted black cover.
Yes.
That I freaking
That is in
love.
French.
Yeah.
And then we have like what I would say is like reminds me of the first John Wick fight scene where it is like, okay, here we go. What's going to happen is it's cars like hitting each other and running around shooting each other.
Mm-hmm.
And is it in this sequence where he literally peels out around a car? Like the guys in a car and
that's at the Arctic
that's
Triumph.
at the, oh my gosh.
But this scene, he because he's given a really cool gun from the king, of course, and I like that he is able to reach down as he's speeding away and pick up the gun off of the road and zoom off.
But yeah, it's all these people are trying to get him, and he is just picking them off one by one.
And the woman is narrating how it's all going.
Yeah,
and she's just like, guys, you gotta be better than this.
And is she saying bumpers? Or buppers.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I think I was hearing buppers.
Or buppers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so then we go to the Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah.
Which is one of the coolest parts.
So, okay.
And it's long.
This is long, and this is one of the cleverest action scenes I think ever put to film.
Yeah.
Chad Stahelski goes, what if walls moved? That's what this fight scene is, where it's like cover is literally moving around. And instead of, much like the club, it's like, no, the traffic doesn't stop. They're still just driving around and they all have to fight within this.
How much do you think was actually shot there?
I can't imagine a lot.
Me neither. Because as we know from Mission Impossible Fallout, they were given how long to shoot there?
I want to say like half hour.
Maybe. They had I
think they had like one shot to do it. Or like 2 or 3 run-throughs.
And that was definitely an action sequence for sure, but it is nothing compared to this part to John Wick 4. On the scale.
Yes. Yeah.
So and even in the Mission Impossible movie, most of those cars are not real.
Yeah.
Because because they couldn't risk not getting the shot probably in 1 or 2 takes because one driver wasn't like messed up.
Well, and honestly, I mean, putting any actor in that kind of danger when you can pretty much fake it with CG, like put in a CGI car.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Like do that. You know,
yeah.
I don't want Tom Cruise to die.
I think it's also to eliminate human error in that situation.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's this fight where the cars are driving around and they are like running in between cars. People are getting hit. This is where we talked about like, you know, some of the cars are CG and they're hitting people, but it's like real hits. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
And there's the shot where there's like 3 cars parked together and John Wick in his car.
I'm cackling like I was at the theater.
He is spin wheeling around,
like
shooting,
like
picking
5
them
or 6 times.
Picking them off by like flies.
Yeah.
I've never seen that in an action movie before. I've never seen that in a movie.
Well, he kind of does it in the first movie, but not to this extent.
I guess not like that. Yeah.
And it is, I mean, it must be seen to be believed. And you can't see this at home.
No,
you
can't.
have to see this in the biggest theater you can find.
Well, that's happening. The tracker shows up because he's getting his bounty, but he's calling the Marquis and is like, you gotta raise the price. This isn't worth it. You gotta keep raising it. And his dog gets in on the fight. His dog is jumping on cars, which looks cool. Yeah. And this is when it starts the whole feud.
Grayson, during him jumping, he was like, yeah.
This begins the feud between, I think the character's name is Chidi, and the dog. Because the dog gets him and he throws the dog off. The dog smashes into a windshield, which I was like shocked that they did that.
Yeah.
But it's like there's no question, like the dog gets up and is like growling and pissed.
Yeah.
Like it's a fighter. I love that shot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So then he gets out of the Ark.
Yeah.
He's got a motorcycle now. And he gets to the Sacré Coeur. And
not yet.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, but
and
he
there's
goes
all
into-
these people
He goes into a
around.
disheveled building.
Oh wait, yes, you're right.
You're talking about. You're missing the absolutely coolest part of this movie. But I
So-
loved. Well, the thing with the motorcycle that was so cool is he's trying to get out, can't, and so which I don't know.
He makes it do a wheelie and
And
drives
pushes
it into someone.
somebody.
Get out of here! Get out of here!
And then he runs into a disheveled building.
And people have what I found out last night is called dragon's breath.
Yeah.
And this is real, where it's like a type of gunshot that you shoot and it flares like a firework and lights the person on fire.
I have never seen that before.
I've never seen it. And it's crazy that it's not in every action movie ever because it is so cinematic.
Well, don't put it in every action movie, please.
No, but what I'm saying is like it's wild that I've never seen this in a movie.
This felt like so we saw this with our friends a second time, and two of our friends said like that was a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Dragon's Breath was in like one of the Call of Duty games. So I guess it's not that new. For me, it is so new. And for me, as I'm watching it, it felt like
I thought it was just made up for the movie. I didn't think it was a real thing.
Me too, but I don't know anything about guns.
Yeah.
It felt like one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, the VFX people got to invent something.
right.
For a movie, which is like the coolest part of their jobs.
Yeah.
Not VFX, but prop people. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, they are VFX, but I'm saying
Yeah.
not the people behind the computer, the people who were like working with science to make it work.
Yes.
Obviously, most of this has to be CGI because you can't set that many spot fires.
Yeah, well, so here's what I think is let's talk about what we think is CGI after we describe what it is.
Okay.
He goes up these steps and the camera's following him in a way that it hasn't been previously.
Yeah.
And it starts like slowly lifting.
Well, it's just such a wide shot and it's so stagnant.
And you're like,
then it starts drifting up.
and you go, are they? No.
They're doing it.
No. And the camera goes to a complete aerial view.
Mm-hmm.
And it follows John Wick as he goes from room to room.
How many feet in the air do you think it is?
I don't know. It's probably I guess we've seen the angle of the lens below, so it's probably pretty high up there, actually.
I want to know
like
where
a
they
good
shot
20
it, like
feet,
how big the
probably.
warehouse is.
Yeah, well, this is probably where a lot of that $100 million budget went in.
Yeah.
So the camera goes up, and it's aerial shot, and it goes room to room, and it passes in between, and they're shooting dragon's breath. People are getting lit on fire. He's killing everybody. He's doing flips and all this stuff, but the perspective is so interesting.
Yeah.
Like when he does like a roll, it doesn't look how we expect to see it. So it just already like everything about it is inventive.
This looks like a video game.
Yes. And there's even a shot where he's hiding behind a kitchen island, and someone jumps in the air above him to attack him, and he shoots the dragon breath, and they go flying high into the air and lit on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then they keep going. I could not even believe what I was watching.
No.
And when we were watching it the second time, I was trying to think like, how did they like stitch this together? Because how could you do this shot? Because like they do the shot, then it goes back to some regular action, and then they do the shot
again. And then they
again.
have the audacity to do it a second time.
They say, let's do it again. And these are pretty long shots.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, this is probably not a genuine oneer, because how could you do it? But when we watched it the second time, I was like, the way the lighting is happening, there is integration from different rooms in where you would have to stitch it.
Yeah.
And like there's simultaneous action happening in like different, like the four quadrants of the screen, and it's like that would take so much painstaking effort for a VFX artist to not make it look choppy, and it doesn't look choppy at all. Then I see a quote today from Chad Stahelski in an interview where he basically said, I get why people do oneers all the time, but I do think doing digitally stitched oneers is kind of pointless. And he did cite 1917, funny enough, where he was like, I saw it and I get it, but I think it actually hurts the movie.
Interesting.
Which is funny because that was exactly what I said about the movie. And then he said, but when you do something like Children of Men, you're so invested and it's so exciting.
And none of that is cheated.
I feel like they might have done a little bit, but basically when I read the thing, I was like, oh, so that was a legitimate shot. It's not stitched together, because you wouldn't go out on a publicity thing, say that, and then you're not doing the real oneer.
Yeah. Can I defend 1917 though?
Yeah, please.
Because I think it was such a great choice for them to do that, to make it feel like it's all one long shot.
Yeah.
Because you really feel like it's all one day, like rather than
Right.
just doing cuts and everything. You really feel that range of emotions that our character goes through in a whole freaking day.
Yeah.
That I think would not be as impactful if it wasn't shot that way.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was less about being showy and more about like that's how they want to tell the story.
Yeah. Well, and
Technically.
he mentioned birding. He mentioned Birdman, and he said, I love Birdman.
Yeah.
And he said, but for me, that one is like more character driven. So
Sure.
like the stitching works for me.
Yeah.
In that. But I think
that one's like about a play. It's about a person, but it's like on Broadway and it's a play. That makes sense.
But I do like the idea because, I think of ones that have been done less good where it's like just so obvious every time they cut. Like there's a movie, I think it's called Extraction with Chris Hemsworth, and there's like a 11-minute shot or something. And you watch it and you're like, "Oh, this is like 30 shots."
Yeah.
Like and I'm watching it and I'm like, "This is cool kind of."
Yeah.
But like I think the one shot in Jaws where they're on a ferry is more impressive to me than this one shot.
Then you're getting into Spielberg territory.
No, I know.
It's not even fair.
I've told you about the Always shot, the times with the airplane taking off, right?
Always
his worst movie for sure.
Oh, okay.
But there's a shot where, and it's one shot where a guy's like running around his house, like packing stuff, and then the camera at one point pans up into the guy's like ceiling light or what skylight, and a plane flies by right then, and then it comes back down.
Did they know that was going to happen?
Well, they had to time it with the actual plane taking off.
Whoa.
It's a real plane, like just on a regular like thing, and you're like, this movie is kind of a worthless bad movie, but you're like, it's kind of worth it to see that one shot in the movie.
That's crazy.
But yeah, so okay, but back to 1917, Jordan. Here's my pop quiz. Did you like the All Quiet on the Western Front 2022 better or worse than 1917?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure because I've only seen 1917 once. I've only seen both of them once, but I've seen one more recently. I think All Quiet on the Western Front, the score does so much for the movie that if the score wasn't like the way it is, it's still a great movie.
Yeah.
But it adds so freaking much to that movie, that score.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Did it win? It did win.
It did win best score.
But I can't remember. That's also a hard one to judge too because it's All Quiet on the Western Front is about Germans, and I've never seen a movie like that. So
yeah,
it's hard for me to really know.
Yeah,
but I love both of them so much.
When I watch All Quiet on the Western Front, I kind of thought like this is what 1917 wishes it was.
I think you dog on 1917 too much. It's a really good movie.
It's good. It's good.
Really good.
It's good.
You should have read that Roger Deakins article like I did.
I did. You sent it to me and I read it. But maybe it was like a women talking situation where it just didn't connect with me, because I remember that was a movie that I kind of walked out and I was like, okay, I've seen that one. Check off the list, and then I was done.
Yeah.
Not like John Wick Chapter 4.
Yeah.
So did we cover that? So my thought on the CGI is, so I believe in these movies they do digital. What are those called? Not flares. The gun firing. What is that called?
Backfiring?
No. The muzzle flashes. Flashes. I believe they do muzzle flashes because they don't use real blanks. Otherwise, they would probably wind up having killed people by now.
Yeah.
Especially when they're putting them against people's heads and shooting. So I think all of that is.
Does the gun recoil though?
I think the actor would have to.
Without it being a blank?
I don't think it would. It would just be like holding a dummy gun and just pressing the trigger.
Okay.
I think. Not an expert. And I won't be.
Okay.
So I think that stuff is digital, and I'm all for that. And then I feel like the Dragon's Breath is not digital. Like, I feel like they are probably just wearing, like, they're just shooting like fireworks, basically.
The people have to be wearing complete suits though, like all over their face and everything, because you can't totally know where the flares are going to go.
Yeah, and I think you could get away with it because it's aerial. We can't see if their faces are covered.
But what about earlier when he first starts using it and it's not the aerial shot? and he's shooting
it just
people.
looks so real that I was
I
like,
know,
I
it
don't know
does.
how this could be fake.
I know.
Because like if you have I'm thinking of it like if you have a sparkler
Yeah.
and like if I sparkle it around you, like those things are gonna hit you, but they're not gonna hurt you. And
They
I
hurt a little bit,
what?
don't they?
No.
Oh.
And so I think it's kind of like that. Like they're just shooting firecrackers at each other, not like legit fire's breath or like.
I just can't see how how this
That's
movie
my
would ever
guess.
be insured with
That's
something like that.
just my guess.
Yeah.
But
I agree. It looks so freaking good.
Yeah. And then the other thing is I think everyone who is on fire, I think all the fire is digital, except for maybe like you said, someone like running into a room.
There's one person that like is engulfed in flames. It's as if they're wearing something super flammable.
Yeah.
And that one felt like, okay, that person is on fire.
Yeah.
But they run out of the room pretty fast.
Just like Freddy in Freddy
Freddy versus Jason.
Nightmare on Elm Street 1 when he's in the basement. The guy like runs down the
Or is
stairs
it Jason
on fire.
Goes to Hell?
No, Freddy.
Yeah. Well, but no, I'm thinking of Freddy versus Jason though because there's a lot of fire in that one.
I'm talking about the very first movie when he runs down the stairs.
Yeah.
Anyway, great shot. Then there's also a point where the dog jumps over John Wick and starts killing a guy. I think the dog was digital.
That I thought was digital too because when it was killing that guy, the guy looked a little CG to me.
Yeah.
But also it's a weird angle.
Right. It's like, how do you know
but
what
also
that
the
would
dog
look like?
was going at it for a while, so that's why I feel like it's CG.
Right.
So that's so cool. The tracker dude or Mr. Nobody catches up with him, and they start fighting.
Right.
And then
I almost skipped this part.
The dog and the Chidi are fighting, or the dog like overtakes Chidi again. So that man is going to kill the dog. And John Wick has his gun pointed at the tracker, sees what this man is about to do to the dog. What does he do?
He shoots the guy.
He shoots the guy.
Doesn't kill the guy, but it saves the dog. And this to me was like, oh my gosh, this is like the full circle of John Wick. This started with the killing of a puppy, and then John is able to come back and prevent the killing of this character who is like John Wick before he becomes John Wick.
Exactly. So he saves that guy's dog, and that guy, it completely changes him.
Yeah, now he's on John Wick's side.
Yeah.
He wants to help him.
Yeah.
I mean, he struggles with it for a little bit, but eventually, in the movie he does. And it's just a great way to like not pass on the torch kind of a thing, but to be like these are these like prototype characters or archetype characters within this very series.
Yeah.
And this character is going to be John Wick, and he just prevented like his story. Yeah.
I mean, that guy probably doesn't have a dead wife, but yeah.
But still, I mean, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it was very poetic and kind of a beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm.
Then he gets to the stairs.
Yeah.
And he has to fight his way up the stairs. And on the radio station, they're like, "Hey, Buppers, let's see if our man in black can make it up the 221 stairs to the church." And then we've already seen some of the most incredible fight scenes we've ever seen. And they're like, "Let's do it again. Let's make another all-timer." Now, I think my favorite is probably a tie between the Arc de Triomphe and the aerial shot. But this is pretty close.
I know, same here.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
He's fighting upstairs, and it's the kind of thing that you watch, and if you take yourself out and go a little more analytical, it's like, I can't believe that these actors are being put through this. Because they're being thrown downstairs. And I've heard stunt people talk about it where it's like, when you're thrown downstairs, you just kind of have to get thrown downstairs.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you get padded, but you're gonna be black and blue.
Yeah.
Like, there's not like the easy way to do it. You just have to
if you want it to look good.
Yeah. So they're fighting. He gets almost to the top. And then what happens?
The Chidi guy and his crew show up and kick him down the stairs.
And he falls all the way down the stairs in one shot.
And they're also juxtaposing this or adding even more tension because he has like 2 minutes left to get to the duel.
Yeah,
and if he is late, he is excommunicated, or he is
killed,
executed, and Winston will also be executed.
Yeah. But so he gets thrown down the stairs, and it is like kind of a laughable thing. And the audience laughs both times.
Therefore, laughable.
Yeah. And I did read in an interview that Chad Stahelski was like, yeah, that moment, I want the audience to know, like, we're in on the joke too.
Yeah.
And then he gets pushed down the stairs again because he still had like 2 flights to go down. And it is cool how the guy's like running down, chasing him in the same shot as him flying down the stairs. Now, this on the second viewing, it hit home for me. Something I probably should have already known, but I realized like, oh, you know what? This is this insane world, and he just got thrown down 200 steps. This is a myth. This is a legend. This is not, I know it's not our world, but it truly isn't. This is like when you hear about like an Arthurian tale or you hear about the fighting of the Green Knight or whatever. It's totally exaggerated. And we are seeing like our modern legend, John Wick. And he gets thrown down a flight of steps. It just sounds very like Greek god.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, this movie freaking rules.
So he's at the bottom of the stairs and he is having a hard time finding the will to get back up. And then Donnie Yen shows up and says, I need you to get up, John.
Yeah.
And that felt, oh my gosh, that was like that was a big laugh / clap from the crowd.
Yeah.
Because it was like a rejoicing moment of like, let's do it again.
Yeah.
So John gets back to his feet.
And they're fighting together, which we've kind of been wanting to see the whole movie, I think.
So they fight their way up the stairs. While that's happening, the tracker catches up to them again with the dog.
And he is about to shoot John Wick, and then he looks at the dog, and the dog's
like, you can't do that. He shaved me.
And then he's on John Wick's side.
And he John Wick, or the dog goes for Cheety's nut. And then the tracker kills Cheety, and then the dog pees on him.
Huge laugh from the audience.
Both times.
Both times, yeah. And we're dealing with gods and men. You know what I mean? This is no longer the realism of our world. They left that a long time ago, and I'm glad they did. Then he gets to the top of the stairs. He's made it just in time. There's a look that Bill Skarsgård gets that's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. And that's when Donnie Yen slices his hand. But then there is a little bit where it cuts away, where I can imagine that maybe they hatched their plan.
Okay.
But maybe not, because they're gods at this point. So maybe they just know what to do.
Yeah. Well, okay, so they're there, they get the pistols, they walk 30 paces, and when Skarsgård, or when the Marquis gives Donnie Yen his gun, he says, I don't know, like, oh, like, don't forget about your daughter, and immediately cutting him off. Yeah, he does the classic Logan Roy F off.
It's a great delivery.
It's like so
it's
good.
Probably the best. It's like the same feeling you get in the first one when John Wick's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back."
Yeah,
it's like, and the audience eats it up both times.
They love it. Yeah. And then
and it's just great because at this point you were like, I am so sick of Bill Skarsgård, and like any good. I mean, we talked about this 3 times with the Good, the Bad, and the with the Man with No Name trilogy movies, where it's like when you get down to like the duel, and it's like, how is it gonna how are they gonna do it, and how is it gonna be satisfying and exciting? And with the Sergio Leone movies, there's always a fun little twist, and so I'm really glad we covered those this year.
Yeah.
But on this one, it's like, how are they getting it? I couldn't figure out how they were going to get out of it.
Yeah, me neither.
Because I'm like, they have to kill Bill. Huh? But I'm like, I don't know how they get out of it. So they take their 30 paces.
And then when Winston gives John his gun, he says, what a beautiful sunrise. It's just like he's making John like, enjoy what's probably the last moment of your life. I am making you. Enjoy the sunrise together. Yeah. And then John says, like, do you have anything to say? Or any last words or something? And Winston's like, just have fun out there.
Yeah. And then when he takes his 30 paces, this time I noticed that John Wick kind of, you can even see it in the shot, he kind of steps hard where he's at. And I took that as he is letting Donnie Yen know exactly where he's at so that he can shoot him without killing him.
Yeah.
And then the guy says, fire. They shoot, they hit each other, but they're just flesh wounds. Then he goes 20 paces. So they come in closer. They fire again. They hit each other. It's still pretty intense, but they're going to be okay.
10 paces.
10 paces. So they're now 10 paces apart. And then they fire again. And this time, also the freaking subtitles in the movie, when it says ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and do the
subtitles float away like dust?
They float away like dust. I love how they do that. Oh, we didn't even talk about the best, maybe the best moment in the movie. Okay, so cut from 10, back when Kane is assigned John Wick.
That's the best moment in the movie.
They give him the braille.
You could just say that that's really cool how they do the subtitles. I don't think that's the best moment in the movie.
It's one of the best moments of the movie. They hand him the braille, and he wipes his hand across it.
And the subtitles show up under his fingers.
And it says Wick N.
Yeah.
And he is just defeated that he's going to have to do this.
Yeah.
And and then he's like, has to concede his pledge. It's a beautiful moment in this movie.
It is.
It's not the best moment in the movie, but as far as like
let's calm down a little bit, Mike.
The touching moments, it's perhaps the best. For me.
Okay, fine, until you come up with the next one.
I love this movie.
So 10 paces, fire. Donnie Yen shoots John Wick in pretty much a fatal blow.
Yeah, through the stomach.
And
you see the blood splurt out.
Yeah. And so John is on the ground. Donnie Yen's still standing. So it's, pretty clear who the victor is going to be once John dies.
And John didn't even get his gun out. Like, he didn't even shoot.
Well, it looks like he shot, though. The way they edited it, it looked like it.
Oh, not to me.
To me, it did.
It's like he's drawing, and then he doesn't get a chance to fire.
Okay, but Skarsgård thought that he did. That's the important thing.
Okay, yeah.
Because John's on the ground. Skarsgård goes up to... He's like, no, I get the last bullet. So this man who has not been able to fight this whole battle that he is like convinced other people that he can fight.
Here's the Sergio Leone twist.
He's like, oh, now I can do it now that the person I'm trying to kill is lying on his back.
Yeah.
Because I'm such a coward. So he gets the bullet, puts in the pistol, goes up to John Wick. Winston smirks. And he says, you arrogant prick.
Yeah.
He didn't shoot. Looks down at John. John points his pistol up at Bill, shoots, and the way that he falls back...
He says, consequences. Shoots him in the head. And the crowd cheers and claps both nights.
And the way that the marquee falls back to is so dramatic and wonderful.
Yeah. And then the like keeper of the duels is like, okay, your hotel's reinstated. Winston, you're set. And then it's like, John Wick, you're now free. Donnie Yen, you are free.
Your daughter's free.
Yeah. And it's cool that the tracker is watching this whole thing, drinking a beer.
Yeah.
And when he sees John Wick go down, he's defeated. And then when it goes through and it hits the audience so hard, he's like, oh, that's good. He got him. That's really effing good.
So then John, still very injured, but he gets to his feet and he turns to Winston and says, Winston, will you take me home? And there's just this look of understanding on Winston's face of like, of course, I will. John walks down a few stairs, sits down, looks up at the sunrise. We get a quick cut to a moment between him and his wife, who was the reason, that and the dog, is the reason for all of this.
Yeah.
And he says, Helen, and then he falls over and dies.
And then we cut to a graveyard.
Mm-hmm. Back in New York City.
And we see that his grave is next to Helen Wick.
And it says...
loving wife, loving husband.
And Lawrence Fishburne asks Winston, so where do you think he is? Heaven or hell?
And he says, who knows? And they walk away. And he says, farewell, my son.
Mm-hmm. So was that a reveal that he was in the same family?
I took it as like, come here, son. Like...
no, but he had the tattoo of the family.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
And he spoke in whatever the language is. So I think, I don't know if it's like a huge reveal or anything, but I think it is showing a, like, you are my family.
Okay. I thought it was like chosen family kind of
Well, I think
situation.
it is also, he has the tattoo of that place,
Didn't
of that
catch
family.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
It has to be
bully
a reveal.
for me. Or bully for you, non-bully for me.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends. And Donnie Yen gets second billing in this movie.
Yeah, he does.
Good for you, bud.
Yeah.
Holy cow. We did it.
Mm-hmm.
The Keanu-thon
Lives
is now
on.
over.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true.
It is now over. If this ballerina movie comes out, and for sure, we will definitely be covering it. So look forward to that. If you like this show, give us 5 stars. If you don't like the show, give us 5 stars. Leave a comment, share it with a friend, and then go to patreon.com/MicahMcCaw and download this month's Patreon specific episode on our Oscar predictions, which of course is over. But next month we'll be doing Glass Onion, and there's plenty of other episodes on there as well. And yeah, get ready for a crazy month on Patreon next month for some wild things that I have been working on. Well, wild thing. Anyway, next week we go back to France. We went to France this episode. We go to France next episode, and we finish the Three Colors trilogy on Three Colors Red.
And what's a more fitting color to come after this movie? Red, the color of blood.
Yes. And then we'll jump right back into the X-Men. We're off to the races. Thank you for listening.
Bonsoir.
Boop. No, you should have the ending. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know if that means goodbye, but it means something in French.
Hit the ending. You get the ending. I always take the ending.
Bye.